Ban Suho is sprinting through the night with Princess Wulryong right behind him and a whole army of assassins breathing down their necks. He might be young and still learning the ropes, but don't sleep on our boy. He's a beast. He splits into clones, calls on the god of wind, and slices through assassins. But these killers aren't dumb. Some break past him and go straight for the princess. Good thing she's packing a trump card. She whips out an item and summons the blood spirit, forming a crimson barrier that shuts down their attack just in time. Before they can even try again, Ban Suho catches up and wipes them out. But it's nowhere near over. More enemies are on the way. The princess is drenched in sweat, clearly running on fumes, but our boy tells her to hang on just a little longer. Then, from above, enemies drop in. Suho slams his sword into the ground, unleashing a massive gust of wind. Most would be blown away, but one guy isn't normal. He uses something called Diabgi, which basically means a person who can channel Buddhist power. He pulls out a golden sword and slices right through the wind wave. Suho freezes for a second. He knows that move. It's the scribe's Kendo Biabji, and the guy using it, one of his own colleagues. Yep, we've got a traitor. Instead of protecting the imperial princess like he's supposed to, this backstabber is here to kill her. They clash hard, blades sparking, and during the fight the traitor spits out that it's an order from the mediator and that he's hated Suho for a long time. Their strikes cancel each other out again and again when suddenly two more assassins charge from the sides. Now Suho is forced to defend on both fronts, and that gives his colleague the opening he needs. He smashes the ground, sending a jolt of electricity through Suho's body and slowing him down. Suho blocks the first hit, but the second one comes from behind, too fast. The traitor just stands there mocking him instead of finishing him, and that's his mistake. Suho seizes the moment, summons a thunderstorm, and turns his spirit wind sword into a storm of blades riding a vicious wind burst. The traitor and the two assassins are torn down, but from a distance another familiar face is watching. This one really is Suho's friend, or at least used to be. Turns out even he's flipped. He draws his bow and fires an arrow that rips through the air at insane speed. Suho reassembles his spirit wind sword and reassures the princess he's fine. But before he can even catch his breath, the arrow comes screaming toward him. Now Suho reacts and tries to slice it, but the arrow dodges his sword like it's alive and slams right into his torso. That's Un Kyunghwai's phoenix arrow. The princess is panicking, begging Suho to turn back, but they're so close to safety that retreat isn't an option. Suho grits his teeth and explains that Un Kyung's arrow will chase its target no matter what. He asks the princess to let the blood spirit take over him. She hesitates, clearly heartbroken, saying he's always sacrificed so much for her, but she does it. The blood spirit floods Suho's body, cranking his blood flow, strength, and speed up tenfold. Un Kyung fires two more arrows, but this time Suho, amped up and blazing, shreds them mid-flight. He charges, furious and confused, because Un Kyung once admitted he loved Her Majesty. Why betray them now? Un Kyung answers by unleashing half-dragon arrows, 3 arrows shaped like dragon heads. Suho gathers all his energy and counters with blood rain, cutting through all 3 in one swing. In that heartbeat, he closes the gap and drives his sword into his friend's chest, demanding an explanation. With his last breath, Un Kyung says he was just a decoy. The real killer is coming. And right then a masked man steps out, flames dancing around him, red and blue. He merges them into a blazing emperor flame and hurls it at the princess. She summons the blood spirit to shield herself, but the attack is so strong the barrier starts to shatter. Wulryong turns to Suho, smiles softly, and thanks him for always staying by her side when everyone else abandoned her. Then the flames crash down and she's turned to ashes. Suho barely has time to move before the masked man unleashes the emperor flame again, engulfing him completely and sending him to the same fate as his master. By all rights, his journey should end there. But twist part, Suho opens his eyes and he's back in the past. Way back before any betrayal, before he even claimed the spirit wind sword. He wakes up to the general kicking him for oversleeping. Suho's stunned. He just died and now he's here? As he stumbles outside, he sees all his colleagues alive and well. The moment his eyes land on Un Kyung, all that bottled rage erupts and he lunges straight at him. Before our boy could even get close to Un Kyung, the general came charging in and kicked Suho flat on the ground. Their mentor Jo Baekho showed up right after, told instructor Lim to wake him up and, as if things weren't already rough, ordered him to run 100 laps fully armed around the training ground. Some of the recruits snickered, thinking he'd be crawling to the toilet after that punishment, but little did they know the strength Suho carried back from his future is still with him even now that he's been thrown into the past. So off he goes, clanking around the field with his armor, running lap after lap while his mind is spinning. He definitely died protecting the princess. He remembers every detail. So how in the world is he back here? Then he remembers the roll call earlier and a chill runs through him. He saw Han Se-kyung, the girl who, in his timeline, was found dead on a mission 2 years ago. If she's alive, then he really has been sent back to when he was just a fresh recruit in Yonghoyang, the military commander who guards the royal Sukwi and Hojong during the Joseon dynasty. Which also means the Empress Wulryong, the princess he watched die, is still alive. alive. Instructor Lim then drops the news that Suho will be guarding outside Yonghwa Palace today. Perfect. That's exactly where he needs to be if he wants to see her. Suho gets so hyped he runs like the 100 laps were nothing. Inside the palace, the princess is with her maidens. She woke up uneasy after a nightmare. She dreamed the same tragic end Suho witnessed. Her cat Muwala suddenly perks up, senses something, and wanders off on its own. By the time Suho finishes his laps, it's time for guard duty. Lee offers to take his shift since he looks exhausted, but Suho heads off to change. That's when trouble walks in. Jeek Shin, the guy Suho knows will one day betray everyone. Jeek tries to mess with him, hoping to make him late so officers will punish him. Jeek might be from a noble family, but thanks to his half-brother his status is shaky at best. Suho, already knowing what kind of snake he is, isn't about to waste time. The moment Jeek lays a hand on him, Suho slams him straight to the ground. Jeek pops up ready to swing again and gets punched right back down. Our boy is itching to crush all the traitors now, but he holds back. There'll be time for that later. Right now, he just wants to make sure the princess is safe. Guard duty is simple. One guard every 30 sheets, and one sheet is about 3 meters, so nobody leaves their post. Right then the cat Muwala leaps onto his shoulder. Suho recognizes it instantly. Muwal, the imperial princess's own familiar. This never happened before. Muwal, clearly annoyed, starts scratching and then its tail heats up, burning Suho. Turns out this cat is no ordinary pet. It's a mysterious spirit. Just then Princess Woolryong arrives. For a second, Suho nearly cries. The last time he saw her, she turned to ashes, and now here she is alive and breathing. Woolryong apologizes for her cat's mischief and asks his name since, in this timeline, she's never met him. He bows and says he's banned Suho, an armed guard of Yongoyong. Seeing her alive fills him with a quiet vow. This time he'll protect her no matter what, and he'll grow stronger than ever to face his traitorous comrades and the fire-wielding enemy. A plan forms in his head. He needs a power strong enough to match them, and to get it he must leave the palace. Lucky for him, today is promotion day. The winner of the promotion contest earns a special vacation leave. The fights begin, and first up is Suho against Jeekshin. Jeek thinks he can pay Suho back for the earlier humiliation. He has no idea what's coming. Suho reads every move like it's written on a scroll, and with one clean counter, he drops Jeek flat in front of everyone. Suho's real goal isn't just a break. He's after the Diabgi statue hidden in a mountain south of the capital. Last time it wasn't discovered until a month later. This time he'll claim it first. Next match is Eun Kyung, who crushes his opponent with a single strike. And now it's the final round, Ban Suho versus Eun Kyung. Eun Kyung, the charming merchant from Jeomgun, has always been popular with women thanks to his easygoing nature and good looks. He's the very reason Suho joined the army. They've been close since the day they met, but in Suho's future this dear friend betrays him. The fight kicks off and Suho charges with fierce attacks, but Eun Kyung's reactions are lightning fast. He slips past every strike, confused by Suho's sudden fury. He lands a sharp counter and even smacks Suho across the face, but our boy refuses to back down. Ban Suho gathered every ounce of strength and charged in like a raging bull, and you'd think the obvious move for Eun Kyung would be to sidestep and counter. But our boy isn't just charging blind, he planned it. Instead of throwing a punch first, he slammed his forehead right into Eun Kyung's fist, blocking the attack with pure grit. Before Eun Kyung could even process what happened, Suho used his weight to tackle him, pinning him hard to the ground and raining down punches again and again, each strike carrying the fury of betrayal. For a second it looked like Suho might actually kill him right there, but he gritted his teeth and held back. If he killed his old friend, he'd be disqualified from the promotion and lose his one shot at leaving this place to hunt for the power he needs. With that, Suho wins the third-year promotion ceremony and finally earns the freedom to chase strength. Now before we follow him, let's peek into the lore of this world. They call it Dharma, a divine treasure forged by the gods themselves. Once upon a time, the mighty gods lived here in what's known as the Junction World. Ordinary people lived alongside them, descendants of the gods, and followed their teachings with the dream of one day becoming gods themselves. But 300 years ago, the gods abandoned the sky and ascended, leaving humans behind in chaos. Still, humans never just give up. The direct descendants of the gods rose up and used the power of Dharma to bring order, founding nations and guiding the people. Dharma isn't just some holy relic. It's a force strong enough to split the sky, crack the earth, grow forests out of nothing, even bring back the dead. One particular Dharma was rumored to rest near the capital on Mt. Bagan-san. A group of Morim masters once discovered it, but couldn't break its seal because its power was overwhelming. The imperial family eventually managed to shatter that seal and claim the Dharma for themselves. But in Suho's previous life, he wasn't able to be part of that moment. This time he plans to change that. He heads straight for the cave where the Dharma is hidden. The moment he steps inside, a bronze statue clutching a spear steps forward and growls for him to leave. Like Suho's going to turn back now. The statue lunges first, spear flashing. Suho blocks, but the statue presses hard, even trying to rip the sword from his hands. Suho counters, but the statue dodges every slash and responds with crushing blows of its own. Then Suho spots an opening. Using the weight of the spear against it, he shifts just right and breaks the statue's balance, then slices it down in one clean strike. But the challenge isn't over. More bronze statues emerge from the shadows, all armed with spears and all charging at once. Suho moves, cutting left and right while weaving through their attacks, never letting the ones creeping from behind catch him off guard. The statues are strong, but their biggest weakness is their speed. They're slow, and Suho takes full advantage. Just when he thinks he's clearing them out, a sudden tornado of wind rips through the cave and slams him hard into the ground. Out of the swirling air steps a massive bronze statue, but this one is different. It's holding the wind spirit sword, the very same sword Suho once wielded in the future. The statue raised the wind sword and gathered a violent gust, unleashing a strike so powerful it could have turned our boy into dust if he hadn't dodged in time. Another slash of raging wind followed right after, but our boy wasn't panicking. He'd held this very sword before, so he knew its tricks. Long range is too risky, so he dashed in close. That's when the statue pulled off the wind spirit transformation, and suddenly there were copies of it everywhere, each one swinging at him from every side. He slipped through the chaos, barely avoiding each strike, but then the statue went for the wind scatter. Inside this tiny cave, it was like a mini hurricane tearing everything apart. Even then, our boy managed to land a clean hit, but a regular sword against solid bronze? Not enough. He had to think fast. The statue tried the wind spirit transformation again, and that was the opening he needed. This move has one fatal flaw. After the last strike, the body stiffens for just a heartbeat. Our boy blocked, waited for that frozen instant, then drove a kick straight into the statue, throwing it off balance. He followed up by targeting the joints not covered by armor, and finally brought the giant down. The wind spirit sword was his again. He once won this sword as a prize in the Imperial Martial Arts competition, and now, after all this time, he found it hidden in this cave. With it, he could finally unleash almost all his strength before his eventual return to the past. Ban Suho awakened the sword's true power, using the thunderstorm move to split the blade into countless shimmering edges. A roaring tornado erupted and wiped out every last statue standing. But a question burned in his mind. What kind of dharma was sealed in this place? Pressing deeper, he stepped into a chamber glittering with blue crystals. At its center stood a single crystal pillar glowing with a strange light. As he reached out, Ban Suho couldn't make sense of the dharma that radiated from it. The moment his hand touched the light, a stunning girl appeared, laughing like she'd been waiting ages to see another human. Turns out, this dharma took a human form. She explained that if he granted their requests, they'd give him unimaginable strength, and apparently there was more than one dharma here. Their first demand sounded almost reasonable: struggle. He had to fight on without ever giving up. Easy for him. The second? Greed. He must crave delicious food and piles of riches. Our boy shrugged. That's just not his style. Then came the third: slander. She wanted him to deceive people, to scheme and bring others down, because watching humans drown in despair and resentment thrilled her. And just when it seemed bad enough, they dropped the fourth. He had to kill a wise man who was loyal and faithful. These weren't requests from a single spirit. Clearly multiple dharmas were speaking through her, each one darker than the last. Ban Suho was furious. Power at the cost of innocent lives? Not a chance. He made it clear he'd never trade his morals for strength. But before he could react further, another dharma made its move, lunging out of the light with a massive clawed arm and snatching our boy. This massive claw belonged to Tao Wu, another dharma, or at least that's what we thought at first, who came charging in like he'd been waiting all day for a fight. Our boy didn't waste time. He sliced Tao Wu's arm just to break free. But before he could catch his breath, two more figures appeared out of the glowing light: Cheong Chi and Tao Tai. And that mysterious girl? Turns out her name is Hun Dun, but her pals call her Chaos, which honestly fits her vibe perfectly. These four are the evil beings the gods themselves feared, locked away for hundreds of years inside the Four Commandments. Their bodies are sealed just like a dharma, but what they really are: Shinigami. Our boy took one look at them and decided, why not take down all four? He's talking big, acting like he can actually pull it off. Classic him. Tao Wu loved that spark of defiance and told the others to stay back. This was his fight. He charged forward, throwing a punch that our boy barely blocked with the wind spirit sword. But Tao Wu's raw power is on a whole other level. Ban Suho tried to turn the tables, using the wind spirit divert to create clones of himself, hoping to confuse Tao Wu. But Tao Wu just slashed the ground twice in wide, vicious arcs. The crazy part is that our boy actually dodged both, and even his clones slipped past the attacks and countered, forcing Tao Wu to feel the pressure. Annoyed, Tao Wu gathered a heavy surge of energy into his arms and released a blazing aura that forced our boy to pull back his clones. He then hurled a crushing punch. Ban Suho blocked it, only for Tao Wu to double the force mid-strike. Even then, our boy held his ground. Fuming now, Tao Wu launched a roaring energy ball straight at him. Ban Suho countered with the wind cloud dispersion, breaking it apart. The clash created a wave of scorching hot wind, and our boy instantly used it to his advantage, slipping to Tao Wu's right side, dodging the counter, and driving his blade straight into him. And then he actually cut Tao Wu clean in half. For a moment it looked like the fight was done, but nope, this was only the warm-up. Tao Wu's body reformed into his true shape, his original form, an enraged devil straight out of a nightmare. Chaos watched with sharp curiosity, clearly impressed. A human pushing a Shinigami this far? Even she didn't expect that. Tao Tai couldn't keep quiet either, chuckling that maybe a monk could pull this off, but for a normal human? Way too much. Hard to argue with that. Now Tao Wu, fully unleashed, stretched out his hand, and from it came these glowing red threads, thick and heavy like a truck's chains. Round 2. It's just getting started. Tao Wu exploded into a furious assault before our boy could catch a breath, throwing punches so fast Suho barely had time to think. And those thorn spikes shooting from Tao Wu's back made it worse, because they came out of nowhere and moved like they had their own agenda, cutting into Suho until he looked like a walking pincushion. Yet even with wounds everywhere, he didn't panic, because he'd saved one trick for last and started trash talking the thorns to bait Tao Wu into overcommitting. And sure enough, Tao Wu fell for it, focused all his rage into a single massive blast that Suho met with the wind god technique, reflecting the bomb back at him and using the rebound to close distance. But the first charge was just a fake, because the real play was thunderstorm. Suho split his spirit wind into a violent storm that ripped out a huge chunk of Tao Wu's body. And just when you think the showdown's done, Hun Dun steps in, because she's bored of waiting, and reveals why she keeps her hair over her face, one eye hidden and the other a void eye that casually shatters the wind spirit sword like it was made of glass. Then before Suho can grab his backup blade, Hun Dun reaches out to probe him and discovers something wild inside him, a divine presence, the holy saint, exploding through his chest with light so bright it punches a hole in the cave ceiling. And miles away, an old man sees that light and freezes because the seal on the Shinigami has broken, so he barks orders at his disciple Unso to hunt down whoever did it and to decide their fate on the spot. If the breaker is pure, send him to rest. If he's a corrupt user of Shinigami power, then take his life. When our boy finally snapped back to his senses, he realized the 4 terrifying Shinigami had turned into these tiny cute spirit forms, and Chaos just casually went and stuffed all 4 of them inside his body without even asking. So now he's walking around with 4 Shinigami plus that divine spirit inside him, and you can bet he was fuming at Chaos for not getting his permission first. Turns out the fight with Tao Wu earlier was only a test, and since Suho actually beat him, they chose him as their host. Chaos tried to smooth things over, saying with the 4 of them inside, he'd have all the strength he'd ever need, but our boy shot back that he wasn't about to help them with any of their evil plans. Chaos, though, wasn't buying his cool act, because she knew he was hiding something. Remember, he died protecting the princess and somehow got sent back to the past, and now his wind spirit sword is broken too. Now what really annoyed Tao Wu is that even though our boy found the 4 dharma of the Shinigami spirits, something no one else could dream of, Suho looked like he didn't care. Now let's rewind about 2 hours earlier, right after Suho fainted. The 4 of them were debating his fate when Chaos pointed out that Suho carries the energy of someone they all hate, the madman. Cheongchi lost it, claiming Suho must be that madman's disciple, and rushed in to kill him on the spot. Chaos immediately blocked the attack and explained that Suho only has a trace of the madman's energy, a remnant spirit the madman left behind to carry out his own plan. If they killed Suho now, their own chance for revenge would disappear. Remember the twisted wishes Chaos already told Suho? Well, she added another. They want revenge on that madman. Tao Tai and Tao Wu agreed right away to join her, lending their power to Suho, while Cheongchi refused, but 3 against 1 settled it. Tao Tai worried because Suho clearly wasn't willing to grant their dark desires, but Chaos told him not to worry. She's literally the embodiment of untruth, once a player of the god's own games. And before anyone could argue, she simply transformed all of them into Suho's body. Fast forward back to the present. Tao Wu, curious about their new host, asked Suho what he actually does. Suho explained he's a soldier guarding the imperial palace. Chaos and Tao Wu froze at that and immediately asked about the god's whereabouts. Suho told them the gods ascended to heaven hundreds of years ago and no longer exist, and now all he protects is the emperor's palace. Hearing that, Tao Wu shifted back to his human form in shock, realizing that means the madman must be gone as well. Suho, still confused, remembered Chaos stabbing him earlier while mentioning the madman. To keep things from getting suspicious, Chaos quickly played it off and admitted she'd simply mistaken his energy for the madman's. Meanwhile, Tao Wu started laughing and trying to buddy up to Suho, pointing out that with the gods gone, nobody can stop them now. After our boy finally left the cave, Unso arrived to investigate who broke the Shinigami's seal. Here's a neat detail. Unso can transform into an eagle capable of flight. He entered the cave and immediately sensed the signs of a brutal battle. Tossing a handful of talismans, he activated the God's Eye Talisman, a technique that replays everything that happened inside the cave. In an instant, Unso saw it all, the 4 Shinigami set free and now sealed inside Suho. What left him completely puzzled was how an ordinary palace soldier could possibly actually unseal the 4 Shinigami in the first place. Our boy was supposed to be on vacation, but instead of chilling, he went straight back to training, like the kind of guy who thinks rest days are a scam. That's when Han Se-kyung and Eun Kyung walked by and couldn't hide their surprise. Why is this dude grinding when he's supposed to be taking a break? What they didn't know is that Ban Suho is keeping his distance on purpose. He already knows his so-called best friend is going to betray him later, so he's avoiding any friendly chat before that knife-in-the-back moment even happens. Se-kyung picked up on the awkward tension, and the two of them quietly left him alone. Right then, Chaos popped out teasing him for how cold he was acting toward his own comrades. Tao Wu followed, telling him there's no point in regular training anymore. If Suho just tapped into Tao Wu's strength, he'd already be many times stronger. Before our boy could even argue, Tao Wu possessed him and the power rush was insane. Suddenly, the heaviest dumbbells felt like feathers. His speed, reflexes, even his eyesight all leveled up. But Ban Suho being Ban Suho, he still refused to rely on borrowed strength. He wasn't about to slack off or let a Shinigami's power replace his own hard work. A few days later, Unso finally made his move and went to meet the princess, but this time he showed up in disguise as her teacher. Turns out he'd been her teacher all along, carrying out his master's orders in secret. He stepped forward with a polite tune, introducing himself as Jang Cheonjin from Mountain Qianryong, here to pay his respects to Her Highness. The guards escorted him straight to Yebu Sang-seo, the chancellor. Remember, Jang Cheonjin is just Unso in disguise, so even though he's putting on the teacher act, we'll keep calling him Unso. Unso claimed he came to see the princess, but we know the real mission. His master wants to find out who broke the seal of the 4 Shinigami. Sang-seo mentioned that the princess's power keeps growing stronger every day, and even her jade body has become incredibly resilient. With that, Unso got official permission to remain in the palace, giving him the perfect chance to track down our boy. And since he's here, why not check in on the princess too? Sang-seo guided him toward the princess's quarters, and on the way Unso passed right by Ban Suho standing guard. The moment their eyes met, Unso knew immediately, this is the man who fought the Shinigami. He didn't waste time and struck up a conversation, asking if Suho was interested in Tao. Our boy flatly said he'd never even thought about the way of Tao. Unso replied that even martial artists must first understand Dharma before they can grasp Tao, then suggested Suho visit Sukadang if he ever wanted answers about Dharma. Inside, Ban Suho was boiling. He knew in the future Unso, this very man posing as the princess's teacher, never protected her, and even worse after King Jonqin became emperor, Sang-seo, the chancellor walking right beside them, hired assassins to kill Her Majesty. In Suho's mind, Sang-seo was the first enemy who deserved to die. For a split second, he considered striking him down right there, but his wind spirit sword was broken, and he held himself back. Meanwhile, Wulryong was simply happy to see her master visit her. Unso was genuinely relieved that Wulryong didn't inherit her father's terrible attitude. Thanks to the heavenly Bible Unso had given her, she'd already mastered multiple martial arts, and her skills had grown at an incredible pace. Unso then asked if he could examine her spirit lines. Wulryong agreed without hesitation. Following his guidance, she began to raise her Dharma, and what Unso saw nearly stunned him speechless. For a human, Wulryong had an extraordinary number of spirit lines. His expression hardened, and he quickly gripped her arm, ordering her to stop circulating energy at once. Wulryong suddenly starts vomiting blood and collapses. Unso instantly shouts for the maidens to bring in an imperial physician and tells the court that Lingji is the only thing that can save her. Every Urim unit is rounded up, and Zhou Bekho takes command, telling the troops they're riding to the Unryong Mountains. The herb is 4 days away on horseback, which means every second counts. Ban Suho already knows this scene all too well from the past timeline, so while everyone else is just panicking, he's tense and serious because he knows exactly what's coming. Over on the other side, Jing Wang bows to his lord. The order is interfere with the Jeomgun army and kill the person who brings the herb back. Nothing more. Jing Wang laughs it off, bragging he could slaughter 100 soldiers in under 2 hours, but the lord shuts him down. No bloodbath, just one target, the herb's recipient. When the army finally reaches the Unryong Mountains, Zhou Bekho rolls out the plan. They hand out paintings of Lingji so the soldiers know what they're looking for. Then he leaves 10 men behind to forage carefully, warning them that the fog in these mountains is deadly thick. Ban Suho, though, he knows exactly where the herb grows thanks to his past life. Tao Wu offers to help, but Suho refuses and goes alone, climbing through the fog. Chaos watches him and mutters that he's simping for the princess, and she's right. Tao Wu senses there's more going on, but Suho brushes it off. He reaches the Lingji, but the moment he heads down the mountain, the fog gets worse. That's when he spots the body of one of his own rainforest unit men, already dead. Before he can process it, screams echo through the mist. Suho sprints toward the noise and finds Jing Wang in the middle of a brutal fight against Eun Kyung and Han Se-kyung. Now it's time to choose: rush the Lingji back to save the princess or dive in because Eun Kyung looks like he's about to die, even though our boy knows he'll betray him later. But seeing his friend bleed out in front of him, him. Suho can't just walk away. He leaps into the fray. Jing Wang, though, isn't playing games. His Dharma blades spin into the air, forming a storm of steel. With a flick of his hand, he sends them flying straight at Ban Suho. Ban Suho braces himself as the whirlwind of swords comes flying in, and with a sharp swing, he actually manages to deflect them. But Jing instantly switches targets, aiming straight for Han Seikyung. Our boy reacts faster and cuts the spinning blades off before they can slice her. Jing doesn't slow down, though. He flashes behind Suho ready to stab, but Han Seikyung shouts a warning just in time, and Suho spins to block. The clash is so heavy it sends him stumbling back. Before Jing can follow through, Eun Kyung fires a volley of arrows, forcing Jing to pull his blades back to defend instead of pressing the attack. Suho knows this isn't a one-on-one fight he can win, so he quickly tells Eun Kyung to keep shooting from a distance. Jing answers by fully activating his Dharma, summoning even more blades, and controlling them like a puppet master. They whirl through the air towards Suho, who blocks as many as he can while Eun Kyung picks off the rest with deadly precision. Jing's patience snaps. He suddenly redirects the assault at Eun Kyung. But Eun Kyung is quicker than he looks. He fires arrow after arrow, deflecting the incoming blades. That distraction gives Suho his chance. He charges in to counter, but Jing twists away like smoke and with bare hands, clamps down on Suho's sword. For a heartbeat, our boy is stuck, and Jing seizes the moment. He sends his blades slashing from every direction, then calls out his deadliest move, Hades' Blade. The weapon spins so fast it turns into a roaring tornado that rips through everything in its path. Suho shouts for Han Seikyung to get clear and plants himself to block the oncoming storm. He knows his strength alone isn't enough, so he calls to Tao Wu for help. Lucky for him, Tao Wu lives for a good fight and jumps right in, possessing Suho's body. Suddenly, Suho's eyes blaze with the power of the demon eyes, letting him track every movement of Tao. Now nothing escapes his sight. With those eyes, he slices through Jing's deadly blades. Eun Kyung fires another arrow and finally lands a hit on Jing. Suho closes the distance and slashes, drawing blood of his own. With Tao Wu lending his strength, Suho starts to dominate the fight and the momentum shifts. Jing finally stops his assault and kneels, as if in surrender. But instead of finishing it, Suho moves to interrogate him. Jing calmly activates his Dharma again and says, "I hold no grudge against you, but he wanted you all dead." And by he means his mysterious lord. Chaos instantly warns Suho to back off, sensing something wrong. Right then the ground erupts. A dark force bursts from below, and Suho suddenly can't move a muscle. Jing explains that the reason Suho is frozen is the crushing weight of his own karma. One by one, the dead start clawing their way out of the earth. And if you remember Suho's future, you know why. Our boy had slain countless assassins, and now that heavy karma has come back to trap him. Suho is suddenly surrounded by the undead, and things turn ugly fast. His friend Eun Kyung starts letting arrows fly, thinking these walking corpses are just illusions, but nope, they're very real. The undead swarm in and start biting Suho all over, and he's barely holding on. Just when it looks like our boy is about to be torn apart, Tao Wu shouts for Chaos to lend him her strength. A burst of energy crashes down from the sky, wrapping Suho in a brand new armor and handing him a fresh sword. Chaos tells him this weapon breaks the law of Dharma, and if he wants to live, he has to use it. The undead charge again, but this time Suho cuts through them. Jing pulls out his sword of Hades and defends himself, then orders the Hades blades to attack. The blades merge into one massive mouth of razor-sharp edges and lunge straight at Suho. Our boy focuses his energy and counters in a single strike, shattering the monstrous blades like glass. The shockwave is so strong Jing is forced to block with his last remaining Hades blades. Realizing he's outmatched, Jing doesn't stick around. He just bolts. Suho wants to chase him down, but his body gives out, the strain of Chaos's power hitting him hard. Eun Kyung and Han Seikyung rush to him, stunned. They had no idea Suho could even use Dharma. They thank him for saving their lives, but Suho isn't in the mood. He hides his anger behind a cold silence, already knowing they'll betray him later. Without another word, he takes off toward the palace to deliver the Lingzi. On the way, curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks about the new armor and sword. Tao Wu explains they're replicas of weapons once used by the gods, because back in the day Chaos lived in heaven disguised as a god. That comment instantly makes Chaos flare up, like, "Excuse me, what do you mean by fake? That power just flattened an undead army." I mean, fair point. It's not exactly fake, but Suho figures it must be incomplete since it clearly came with a time limit. Suho then asks about the Dharma of Hades, the Dharma of the underworld. Chaos reveals it draws on the underworld's power through karma, packing even more destructive force than the Dharma of the gods. But there's a catch. Using it transports the wielder to the underworld itself, which is exactly why the gods banned it. Now Suho starts piecing things together. He remembers in the future Han Seikyung was found dead, and it turns out the one who killed her was Jing. And somewhere behind all of this lurks Jing's mysterious lord. Too many questions, too many secrets, and our boy knows this is only the beginning. Now let's check in on Unso. He activates his talisman to spy on what's happening and ends up watching the entire fight between between Suho and Jing. He's clearly impressed with what he sees. Unso's master warned him long ago. If the host of the Shinigami's power ever uses it for evil, he must kill them. Seeing that Suho isn't abusing that power, Unso decides to stay put and not interfere. That's when a maiden rushes in to tell him the princess's condition has taken a bad turn. Wulryong can barely breathe, and this wild surge of positive energy inside her is driving her to the edge. While Unso starts chanting to calm that energy, the princess slips into a dream. In it, she sees the future, her own death, until Suho appears and saves her. We already know that timeline, so we can follow along without surprises. Once she finally calms down, Unso explains she collapsed because an overwhelming flood of positive energy was about to erupt. Even now she's uneasy. She's only met Suho once, and yet he keeps appearing in her dreams. Meanwhile, Jing reports back to his mysterious lord about Suho and his shockingly strong dharma. The lord doesn't waste time. He orders Jing to find out exactly who Suho is and what kind of dharma he wields. Back with the princess, thanks to Suho delivering the Lingzi, she's finally able to take her medicine, the Xiandan. After swallowing it, Unso instructs her to gather all that positive energy in her dantian. The sheer amount of it is overwhelming, and she struggles to control it at first. But with Unso's guidance, she slowly learns to circulate the energy until her body's natural flow returns to normal. Once things settle, Unso gently tells her that some of the Jeomgun troops died searching for the Lingzi. Wulryong is heartbroken and deeply worried, but then Unso adds that the protesters were actually assassinated. The princess steels herself and says they must catch the murderer and console the families of the victims, and of course they should reward whoever secured the Lingzi. But none of that can happen yet, because the moment Suho set foot inside the palace, he was thrown straight into prison. Wulryong couldn't believe it when she heard who got thrown in prison. It was Suho, the very same guy she just saw in her dream. Meanwhile, our boy is inside casually working out like it's a normal day, even though he's in serious trouble. Tao Wu is losing his mind. He's like, why are we playing along with these imperial rules when you literally have 4 Shinigami inside you? And honestly, I'm with Tao Wu on this one. Sure, Suho gained the Dharma without anyone's permission, but he hasn't hurt a soul. He even saved the princess by delivering the Lingzi, so locking him up is just ridiculous. Then the interrogation starts. 1A takes the lead and right away points out that no one in Suho's family has ever been a Dharma user. So how on earth did he get it? Suho doesn't dodge the question. He tells the whole story about what happened during his vacation just a few days ago. When 1A hears that 4 Shinigami are actually living inside Suho, his eyes light up like he's just found a priceless treasure. He decides such power is wasted on a simple soldier and demands Suho hand the Shinigami over to the country. But we all know Suho can't do that even if he wanted to. 1A snaps and orders the guards to drag Suho off to a special prison and torture him until he gives in. Our boy could break free without even breaking a sweat, but instead he stays calm and doesn't resist. Tao Wu, though, is done holding back. He materializes in front of everyone, and the room goes ice cold as fear grips 1A and his men. Tao Wu is ready to attack, but Chaos steps in and stops him. Then she flips the whole scene with her silver tongue. She warns 1A that the only thing keeping the Shinigami in check is the seal, and if someone tries to force them out, that seal could break and the entire country would turn to ashes in seconds. Of course, that's a total bluff. The seal isn't breaking anytime soon. Chaos just knows exactly how to play the game. Suho tells them himself he'll go to the special prison willingly, and suddenly the same 1A who was acting all high and mighty is trembling like a leaf. Back with the princess, Wulryong is deep in meditation when her maiden rushes in with the news. Suho has been locked in the special prison and might even be exiled to some distant island. Wulryong doesn't waste a second. She decides she's going to her father, Emperor King Jonqin, to save him. The emperor is all smiles at first, thrilled that his daughter has made a huge leap toward immortality. But Wulryong quickly cuts to the real reason she's there. She explains that her progress came thanks to many people, including someone who's now being punished for it. She asks her father to forgive Suho. Wulryong made it clear to her father that she wants to use Suho's power wisely. When he asked her to explain, she played it smart. She pointed out how dangerous it would be to leave someone who can summon the dead from the underworld free to oppose the Golden Army. The emperor agreed and mentioned that the court is still trying to figure out Jing's identity, but hasn't reached any conclusion yet, so he asked his daughter what she suggests. Wulryong laid it out perfectly. First, there are Dharma practitioners living in Simsen village. Second, there could be spies among them who are Dharma users from other countries. Third, there are those who secretly practice Dharma within their own borders. She added that the attacker claimed he killed the Jeomgun under the orders of his mysterious lord, proving that these people are dangerous and have no respect for national law. So her plan was simple but sharp. Send an inspector to investigate these groups thoroughly, and as for Suho, let him assist the inspector. The emperor immediately saw how brilliant this idea was and agreed without hesitation. You've got to admit, the princess nailed it. This was some next-level quick thinking. Now it's up to Suho to handle what comes next. first. Down in the Imperial Palace underground, where Suho is being held, Chaos is amazed that humans could build a place like this. The anti-Xianyu here disrupts the flow of energy and weakens Dharma power. Soon after, guards arrive, free Suho, and escort him to the inspector he'll be working with. The moment Suho sees this man, he freezes. In the future Suho came from, this very inspector was the one he sought out for help when rescuing the princess. Back then, the inspector had been the final candidate for Buma. That's the title given to a man chosen to marry a king's daughter, but he refused to help Suho save her. Now, in the present, the inspector doesn't waste time. He pulls out his golden whip and attacks. Tao Wu immediately takes over Suho's body, boosting his strength. Suho channels energy into his hands and unleashes the Void Splitter technique, powerful enough to literally slice through space. He catches the golden whip mid-strike and cuts off its sharp edge. Thanks to what he experienced in the future, Suho already knows the weak points in an assassin's technique, so he clears the test without breaking a sweat. The inspector then informs him that his affiliation has been officially changed. He's no longer part of the GM gun, but now an inspector. If he proves himself and makes enough contributions, he'll be excused for possessing Dharma without permission. From now on, Suho must follow the inspector's orders. Meanwhile, inside the city, Jing has already slipped in and even learned that Suho was expelled from the army. Following the inspector's instructions, Suho spends the day delivering letters across the city while Jing quietly stalks him. Jing waits for nightfall to make his move. Later that night, Suho returns to the inspector and finally realizes he's been used as bait. Right on cue, Jing steps out of the shadows and instantly finds himself surrounded. This isn't just any squad, it's the Iron Blood Brigade, the Imperial family's dark force that operates in the hidden corners of the Empire. Suho recognizes them immediately. As the soldiers close in, Jing activates his Dharma, summoning the deadly Hades blades. The Hades blades shot straight toward the soldiers, but they instantly raised the iron wall, a blue shield that actually blocked the attack. The inspector wasted no time, snapping his golden whip at Jing. Jing dodged the strike, but the inspector immediately switched techniques, using the gold chain Sucha to lock Jing in place. With that golden whip holding him down, Jing couldn't even summon the undead, because the whip cancels out anything tied to monsters or spirits. Perfect setup for an interrogation. But Jing wasn't going to make it easy. He kept stalling, dodging every question. Then he suddenly unleashed the Baldo technique. His whole body bulged with these eerie knives before launching them all at once. The moment the inspector loosened his grip on the whip, the knives sliced through the air and hit him, breaking Jing free. Without missing a beat, Jing hurled more of those knives toward the soldiers. This time, even the iron wall wasn't enough. The knives pierced straight through, wounding them. That's when Tao Wu took over Suho and told Chaos to summon the scarlet armor and sword in case Jing tried to call on the undead again. Our boy jumped back into the fight as Jing sent another wave of knives flying. Suho moved fast, using the Void Splitter to cut through the knives before they could reach him. He kept the pressure on, dashing forward so Jing had no room to counter. Jing tried again to unleash his knives, but Suho slipped to the side and countered in a blink, making Jing lose his balance. Seizing the opening, Suho grabbed him and ordered him to surrender. But Jing wasn't caught off guard this time. He had backup. From a nearby rooftop, an arrow shot through the night, striking Suho in the back. The icy chill that followed was brutal, hell's cold itself. In an instant, Suho's entire body froze. The shooter is a girl named Song Jae-wong, master of the chills of Hell Dharma, and so accurate she can hit a flying swallow. As the frost locked him in place, Suho's consciousness was suddenly pulled away, transported to somewhere else entirely. Suho suddenly finds himself standing inside a circle of 4 towering stone pillars. One of the Shinigami inside him begins to speak, revealing an ancient history. Long ago, there were 4 mighty clans ruling the world of Junction. To the north, Emperor Hong's clan. To the south, Emperor Zhuanqu's clan. To the west, Emperor Xiaohao's clan. And to the east, Emperor Jinyun's clan. The 4 lived in perfect balance until Yao and Xiao rose with the gods' inheritance, conquered Junction, and twisted the 4 clans into monsters. Those 4 clan leaders now live inside Suho as the legendary 4 evils. The one who summoned him here is Tao Tai. He tells Suho that he and the other 3 are descendants of those ancient emperors, and that the reason Suho just lost to the Dharma of the underworld was because of a trap they had set. But Tao Tai explains, if Suho would embrace the 4 evils' power completely, no trap could ever hold him. Suho pushes back. These 4 evils have always demanded horrible acts in exchange for their power, and he refuses to give in. Tao Tai then drops their ultimate goal isn't chaos for its own sake. They want freedom from the seal that binds them and to find and avenge the Son of God who sealed them in the first place. Suho argues that the gods all ascended to the heavens hundreds of years ago, but Tao Tai fires back with a sharp question. If that's true, why does Suho carry the energy of a god's son? Suho doesn't want to believe it, but Tao Tai simply points upward. And there it is, Suho's own energy blazing above him like the sun. Tao Tai explains that Suho isn't blood-related to any god, which means his connection to this god's son must be part of someone's grand scheme. That word, scheme, hits Suho hard. It finally clicks. He died in the future and somehow returned to the past. Could his regression itself be part of this son of God's plan? Before Suho can press for answers, the stone pillars start trembling. Tao Tai glances upward and says it's because of the battle raging outside. And outside, things are grim. Most of the soldiers are down, and the inspector is left fighting Jing alone. Suho has to decide, take the four evils' power or watch his allies fall. Tao Tai steps closer, promising that they only want revenge, and in return Suho can wield their strength for his own purposes. After a heavy pause, Suho makes his choice. He'll accept their power, but vows he will never kill an innocent person. Tao Tai just smirks. That was never the four evils' aim anyway. Now Suho can draw on Tao Tai's strength alongside chaos and Tao Wu. Tao Tai's power is pure greed. Back in the real world, Suho shatters the frozen grip that held him. His left arm now has the terrifying ability to absorb Dharma itself. Song Jaewang fires another arrow, but Suho simply absorbs it. After all, it's made of Dharma. He then channels Tao Wu's energy into his blade, a force capable of splitting space itself. With a single strike, he slashes at Jing, who barely manages to block. Jing retaliates with another wave of knives, but Suho drains them away with the power of greed, then counters with a devastating slash that destroys Jing's Hades blade and cuts him deep. The inspector quickly reminded our boy that killing Jing wasn't an option, since they still needed him alive for interrogation. Jing smirked like he had been waiting for this and pulled his trump card, dragging both Suho and the inspector straight into the road to hell. 1 second they're standing there, the next they're falling from the sky. Thankfully, the inspector snapped his golden whip and created a glowing platform under their feet, so they landed without breaking every bone in their bodies. Welcome to Dosen Hell, a place where murderers and greedy souls get the eternal VIP treatment of being slashed again and again by endless blades. And if that wasn't creepy enough, out of the sea of undead a gigantic hand suddenly burst out and snatched the inspector like he was an action figure. Jing wasn't playing around anymore. He fused with this monstrous giant body sprouting 6 arms, and in 2 of those arms he clutched the Jingguei, an ancient jade tablet once held by old rulers during ceremonies. In this nightmare form, Jing was now officially King Jingwang. Suho sprinted straight for the inspector, slicing through a massive hand that tried to crush him, and with the boost from Tao Wu he even managed to slash the giant body right where Jing's real form was hiding. But of course Jing teleported out from the head just in time, dodging a fatal hit. King Jingwang's body was literally built out of dead people, and he wasn't done with his tricks. Sharp spikes shot up from beneath Suho trying to impale him, but our boy reacted instantly, cutting them down, only for them to explode the moment they were cut. Tao Wu warned him that minor wounds heal fast, but a serious hit could be a one-way ticket, so Suho cranked up his speed, slashing spikes and moving like lightning before they could blow. He finally reached the inspector, but a huge explosion went off right in front of them. Suho barely dodged it and still managed to grab the inspector out of harm's way. The inspector wasted no time, whipping his golden cord around the Jingguei in King Jing's hands. Jing retaliated with a thunderbolt of pure lightning, and Tao Tai immediately told Suho to use the power in his left hand. Suho absorbed the lightning, then hurled it right back, smashing the Jingguei into shards. That jade tablet was the heart of this nightmare, and with it gone, King Jing's giant corpse began to crumble. Turns out any world forged from Dharma needs a core, and breaking it makes the whole place collapse. The next moment they were back in the real world. Jing's leg suddenly severed by itself, a nasty price for daring to create a world of hell. Chaos explained it plainly. Great power always demands a heavy price. With that, the inspector bound Jing tight with his golden whip and calmly turned to Suho, asking him to take the lead from here. Song Jaewang saw the hell Jing created shatter before her eyes and decided she wanted no part of what was coming next. She turned around without a fight and hurried back to her master to report everything. Meanwhile, Suho and the inspector returned to the palace with Jing in custody and threw him straight into the prison. That's when Unso, still disguised as Jang Cheonjin, approached our boy. He looked Suho right in the eye and asked what he planned to do with the seal of the 4 evils inside him. Without even pausing to think, Suho answered that he'd use it to protect someone precious to him. And come on, we all know exactly who that is. The princess, of course. What Suho didn't know is that Unso was testing him under his master's orders to see if Suho carried any hint of true evil. Apparently Suho passed, because Unso handed him a mysterious book called Mind Dharma. According to Unso, if Suho can master the teachings inside, he'll gain the ability to bring even the fiercest monsters to their knees. Just when that sank in, Tao Tai appeared in his spirit form and casually demanded that Suho pay the price for borrowing his power. So where does our boy head next? Straight to the dining hall. And by eating, I don't mean a quick snack. He absolutely demolished bowl after bowl of noodles like a human black hole. Tao Tai's ultimate desire is pure gluttony. The more you eat, the hungrier you become. So instead of harming anyone or giving in to some dark craving, Suho turned the tables. He'd just keep eating until Tao Tai's appetite was finally satisfied. That's when Jeek and Aobe of Suho's teammates wandered in. Jeek nearly fell over when he learned Suho was now working with the inspector's crew, and you could practically see the jealousy dripping off him. Even Tao Tai couldn't stand Jeek's whining. So he casts a little trick that made Jeek so ravenous he practically inhaled an entire bowl of noodles in one go. Later that night, the scene shifted to a red-haired young ninja named Yomura. Moving like a whisper, he slipped inside the palace grounds. Yomura was sent by Jing's own lord with a simple mission: either rescue Jing or silence him forever. Back in the present, Yomura made his move, leaping forward and flicking 2 kunai with deadly precision. The first 2 guards dropped instantly. Without slowing, he pulled out his twin ball maces and plowed through the rest of the palace guards. The clash of metal and the sudden cries of alarm finally reached Suho's ears. The inspector rushed in with a squad of soldiers to cut Yomura off, but this red-haired ninja wasn't about to be stopped. His eyes suddenly lit up, and you could almost feel the shift. He'd activated an ability that let him see the energy inside every person, sizing up their strength. The first 2 soldiers barely took a step before Yomura struck them down in a blur. The inspector snapped his golden whip forward, but it might as well have been a piece of string. He tried to use the same immobilizing move he'd used on Jing earlier, but Yomura muttered some strange incantation, and the whip froze midair, useless. Yomura closed the gap in an instant, attacking with a speed that gave the inspector no time to counter or even properly defend. Blow after blow landed until the inspector's guard finally broke. Yomura raised his weapon for the finishing strike, only to be cut off by a flying blade. Suho had arrived just in time to save him. Yomura's strange eyes locked onto our boy, immediately sensing the massive energy burning inside him. Suho dashed in. Yomura swung one of his heavy ball maces, but Suho met it head-on, channeling Tao Wu's power to block. The second mace came just as fast, but this time Suho countered with Tao Tai's power, holding his ground. Then Suho went on the offensive. He slashed forward with the Void Cutter, finally breaking through and injuring Yomura. That's when things got serious. Yomura's entire aura shifted. His wounds sealed before their eyes and black flames roared to life around him. He blurred forward again, and for the first time our boy struggled to block. When Suho tried to counter, Yomura simply vanished, reappearing behind him and landing a clean hit across Suho's back. Before Suho could recover, Yomura unleashed a strike so powerful the ground itself gave way. The force crushed the floor, sending both of them crashing down into the underground prison where Jing was being held. Down below, Yomura took one look at Jing and instantly saw the truth. His ability revealed that Jing no longer had any dharma. Someone stronger had already arrived and stripped it away. Seeing Jing crippled, missing a leg and now worthless to his mission, Yomura's expression hardened. Without a flicker of hesitation, he decided Jing's life had reached its end. Even though our boy was wounded, he wasn't about to sit back after seeing Yomura slaughter one of his colleagues. He got back on his feet. Yomura dashed forward, attacking relentlessly. Suho blocked every strike, staying patient, waiting for the perfect opening. Finally, he saw a gap and gathered his energy, ready to strike. But before his fist could land, Yomura muttered his strange words again, nullifying the attack entirely. Then, with a brutal strike to Suho's chest, he sent our boy crashing to the ground. Just when things looked darkest, the inspector arrived with reinforcements from the Iron Blood Men. The next morning, Suho woke up in a hospital, his wounds completely healed thanks to Tao Wu's power. The inspector came by with news. Yomura had killed all the Iron Blood soldiers who resisted and then vanished. There was supposed to be punishment for the lack of coordination, but thanks to the princess shielding him. Looking at all the chaos, the inspector realized they might be dealing with a secret society tied to a native aristocrat, and their next mission is to find and destroy it, but Yomura is the biggest obstacle. Suho started thinking, remembering something from the future he had come from, and asked the inspector for a month to find a way to defeat this red-haired ninja. Now, the 4 evils inside Suho were struggling against Yomura's word-based abilities. Chaos explained that words are the power of the gods, which oppose the Shinigami's powers. To understand what Suho is searching for, let's rewind to the future he came from. In the 11th year of Jianheng, the first day of the month of Imjin, 10 days later Mountain Qianryong collapsed, causing a disaster where many monks died. The mastermind behind it? Baek Seolyong. She was eventually captured and executed, but a massive stash of Dharma items was found among her belongings. Each item was powerful, and some could even cancel all sounds within a certain range. If Suho could reach her before she got to work, he could claim those items for himself. Fast forward to the present, Suho reached the valley where Baek Seolyong was living. But the area wasn't easy. Chiminchen Fa filled the surroundings, a strange spell using landmarks and chi to confuse the 5 senses and create illusions. Tao Wu figured this spell wouldn't affect him, so he pushed rushed ahead alone. That's when he saw it, blue electricity forming a human shape. Anger flared inside him, and he revealed his true form, shouting out the name of the figure in front of him, Lizenzi. Our Shinigami jumped right into a fight with Lizenzi, thinking this was the real deal, but Tao Wu was actually swinging at nothing more than an illusion. Now, if you don't know, Lizenzi is that annoying god who used to give Tao Wu a hard time back in the day, so no wonder our boy went full attack mode. That's when Tao Tai casually stepped in and went, "If it's just an illusion, then just suck in all the chi around here and it'll disappear." And he did exactly that. One big gulp of chi and poof, illusion gone like it never existed. Moving on, the squad stumbled upon this eerie mirror shaped like a door. Suho, being Suho, couldn't resist touching it. A second Suho stepped out. From the look on his face, you can already tell this is going to be one of those nasty fights. The moment the clone appeared, it lunged forward. Our boy barely dodged in time, blades flashing as the two started clashing. While those two are busy trying to outmatch each other, let's check in on the princess. Wulryong went to see her father, the emperor, again. He couldn't hide how proud he was. Her chi keeps improving like crazy, something no one in the imperial family has ever done. To him, she's the future of the country. So he told her to climb Mount Qianryong, follow the Taoist path, and aim for immortality. He even insisted she take Youngdan with her, and said the imperial army, led by General Huang Borak, would give their lives to protect her on the journey. Now let's jump back to our boy locked in a duel with his own reflection. Here's the scary part. When Suho tapped into Tao Wu's power, the clone instantly mirrored it. And not just that, it actually handled Tao Wu's power better than him. Every time they clashed, their attacks canceled each other out like perfect opposites. Suho tried to hold back, waiting for the perfect opening to land a solid strike, but his copy wasn't falling for it. After all, who knows you better than well, you? The moment the clone looked vulnerable, Suho thought this was his big chance and went all in, only for the replica to predict his move and counter before our boy could even land the hit. To ease the pressure of that crazy duel, our boy tapped into Tao Tai's power, but the replica wasn't about to be outdone. It instantly copied him and charged again, hitting Suho with a flurry of attacks and even throwing in the void splitter for good measure. Suho managed to block it with Tao Tai's power and tried to counter with his own void splitter at full force, but the replica saw it coming and unleashed the exact same technique, only stronger. The clone's void splitter hit harder, making it clear who had the upper hand. The replica dashed in once more, relentless in its assault. At this point, let's be real, Suho had no chance of winning a straight-up fight. That's when Baek Seolyong suddenly showed up and, with a single command, ordered the replica to stop. She stayed sharp and immediately warned Suho to leave her territory. Suho, still catching his breath, told her he'd leave only after she dealt with this copy that was imitating his Dharma. The moment she heard the word Dharma, her eyes lit up. She ordered the replica, whose name, by the way, is Xian Langjing, to stand down and admitted she was impressed that Suho's Dharma was inside his own body. Tao Wu, on the other hand, was losing it because Suho had just called them monsters. How dare he? Seolyong was even more surprised when she learned that the 4 Shinigami had been sealed by the gods and started wondering if that meant the Dharma was something the gods created together. Before Tao Wu could spill the rest, chaos butted in and shut him up. Seolyong, now clearly excited, dashed right up to Suho and began inspecting his body like a curious scientist. Our boy went red in the face because, well, she might be in her 30s, but she looks younger than him, and she was way too close for comfort. Seolyong, totally unfazed, offered him a deal. Let her study his Dharma and she'd pay him back. She then invited him into her house, which honestly felt more like a lab. Inside, she proudly showed him Jumsa Yohansian, a massive furnace designed to gather chi. Seolyong explained that she's using it to craft Dharma items. This wasn't just any furnace either. It was originally built by a god, but later dismantled after it broke. She's been trying to figure out how to restore it. Suho, coming from the future, instantly recognized it. This was the very furnace responsible for the huge explosion in the timeline he came from. Now let's shift over to the princess, making her way toward Mount Qianryong. The imperial army was escorting her, and of course an escort like this is never peaceful. Far ahead of the group, Song Jaewong and Yomura were already lurking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Seolyong finally revealed the prize our boy came for, Jumsa Yohansian, an item so powerful it can cancel every sound within a 3-meter radius. Suho introduced himself properly, this time as Ban Suho, a provincial inspector's warrior, and explained he needed this item as a countermeasure to silence the words of a dangerous criminal wanted by the country. Seolyong's eyes lit up at the chance to run experiments on him, and she didn't waste a second. She actually made him strip his upper body and locked him to a chair. Holding a sharp knife, she calmly announced she'd start with his arm. One quick slice, and the wound sealed instantly thanks to Tao Wu's presence inside our boy. But then her expression turned a little too dark for comfort. Next on her list was cutting off his entire arm to see if it could grow back. Tao Wu immediately snapped at her, warning that he couldn't fix something that extreme. She just shrugged and suggested pouring poison on the wound instead to see what would happen. Tao Wu shouted again, this time even louder, telling her not to do that either because he couldn't cure poison. Our boy finally had enough and set his own rules. Only one experiment per day and nothing life-threatening. Seol Yang snapped out of her excitement and apologized for getting carried away. After that little ordeal, Suho asked if he could use the mirror to spar against his replica Xian Langjing, explaining he wanted to train and surpass it since the clone could handle his own dharma even better than him. Outside, the fight kicked off again. Suho remembered how Xian Langjing had wrapped the void splitter around his sword to boost its power, so he tried the same move, surrounding his blade with the void splitter's force. But the replica simply used blistering speed, vanishing and reappearing behind him, casually showing the perfect way to pull off that attack. Even when Suho tried to absorb the strike, it was useless. Xian Langjing's void splitter was on a completely different level. And then it happened. Xian Langjing vanished, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. Suho instantly recognized the signs. This was exactly how the explosion in his future timeline started. He rushed back inside to find the furnace blazing out of control. Seol Yang had injured her leg and couldn't stop it herself. She quickly shouted instructions. First go left, lower the red handle, then get behind and lock all 5 pipes. But our boy, being his usual self, found the whole process way too complicated. Instead, he called on Tao Tai's power and absorbed the qi inside the furnace, cutting off the explosion before it could blow. The danger passed, but Seol Yang suddenly coughed up blood and collapsed. So, Suho scooped her up and raced back toward the Mount Qianryong to find someone who could treat her. Once Suho reached Qianryong, he rushed Seol Yang straight to the hospital and didn't leave her side until help arrived. Not long after, her uncle burst in, clearly shaken and worried sick. Suho quickly explained what had happened and how Seol Yang ended up injured. The uncle thanked him for saving her and then, with a heavy sigh, began sharing a story that clearly weighed on him. He revealed the dark past of the Seol family, a lineage devoted for generations to restoring dermas. But when Seol Yang was just 15, tragedy struck. That day she returned home only to find her parents dead, their killer wearing her own face. Yes, something or someone had taken the shape of Seol Yang. This mysterious figure controlled a magpie snake and possessed terrifying shape-shifting abilities. By the time a neighbor discovered the scene, the entire family was gone, except for Seol Yang. From that moment, her uncle took her to Mount Qianryong to protect her. Over the years, Seol Yang's heart hardened. She grew to despise humans and became obsessed with enforcing the rule of law, determined that no one should suffer injustice again. Her uncle turned to Suho and pleaded with him to stop her before her obsession consumed her completely. Hearing about this shape-shifting killer, something clicked in Suho's mind. He'd heard of another case where a criminal had taken someone else's form to commit crimes. When Seol Yang finally woke up, Suho gently explained that her internal injuries had been treated, her leg wasn't broken, and she'd be discharged soon. Then he told her about the criminal who had murdered her parents, adding that he might know something important. Seol Yang's eyes widened as she begged Suho to catch the killer and promised she'd give him anything in return. Suho assured her he would hunt this criminal down no matter what. Meanwhile, back with the princess, Unso had to leave because his master was calling for him. With the sun already sinking, Youngdan suggested they camp for the night and continue their journey in the morning. As darkness settled over the campsite, the princess's spirit cat, Newall, began to bristle, clearly sensing something evil approaching. Outside the tent, a shadowy figure, one of Song Jaewong and Yomura's allies, appeared and began summoning multiple gates. He opened the gate of dwelling in hell itself, and from it a massive cogwheel emerged, spinning toward the princess's tent. The soldiers fought hard to slow it down, buying just enough time for Youngdan to leap in and stop the deadly cogwheel before it could reach her. Youngdan makes his move, unleashing his acid cloud. The effect is immediate. The cogwheel begins to corrode. But the battle doesn't stop there. The opponent doubles down, sending out multiple cogwheels at once. Youngdan responds the only way he knows how, with another acid cloud, but this time the enemy shows his hand. Instead of letting his cogwheels fall apart one by one, he fuses them together into a massive, towering cogwheel structure. It spreads out, targeting every soldier in sight. Jeek is on the brink of death, barely holding on when the princess steps in. She calls upon the blood spirit, wrapping Jeek in its protection. She pushes back against the advancing cogwheels, shielding the soldiers who've gathered around her. But then comes Yomura. The soldiers try to block his path, but he tears through them like paper. Before the others can even react, he slams the ground with such force that they're thrown back, scattered. The only reason one of the princess's maidens survives is because she shields her in time. Yomura taps into his ability to sense chi, scanning the princess. What he sees shocks him. 3 strong chi sections glowing inside her body. That's all the invitation he needs. He leaps forward, ready to strike. The princess unleashes her nocturnal blood, firing arrow after arrow made of crimson energy. They tear into Yomura, cutting him down piece by piece, leaving him no room to counter. But Yomura is relentless. Through the storm of blood arrows, he pushes forward, closing the distance. And then he lands a clean. The princess's right arm hangs useless, completely quickly taken out of the fight. Yomura looms over her, ready to deliver the fatal blow. Before Yomura could land that fatal blow, something unexpected happened. The blood spirit acted on its own and shielded the princess. Soldiers rushed in, but Yomura wasn't about to let them get close. He unleashed his nameless flame, surrounding the area in a blazing barrier that kept everyone at bay. Now, Jeek and his friend Chonggong spotted a cart nearby and quickly came up with a plan. While Yomura was pressing down on the princess's barrier, the two of them shoved the cart straight toward him. The cart didn't hurt him at all. Yomura stood there like, really? That's it. But that wasn't their real move. The moment Yomura dismissed it, Jeek and Chonggong bolted in the opposite direction. That little stunt made Yomura furious. He lashed out again with his nameless flame, and that's exactly what they wanted. Because the instant his fire touched the cart, boom, a massive explosion ripped through the battlefield. Turns out, the cart was packed with dozens of Jinshin mines. The blast was huge, but Yomura wasn't down. He staggered out of the smoke, alive, angrier than ever, and ready to tear them apart. Jeek and Chonggong grabbed the princess and rushed her to General Youngdan. But then Song Jaewong loosed an icy arrow. Youngdan had a split second to react. The arrow wasn't aimed at him, it was aimed at the princess. So he shattered it midair. The arrow was no ordinary shot, it was an ice blood arrow. The moment Youngdan destroyed it, the shards pierced him, and his blood began to freeze from the inside. You could see the frost creeping through his veins. Still, he refused to fall. Even as his body stiffened, he stood tall, holding the line. He wasn't fighting for himself anymore. He was buying time, making sure the soldiers could get the princess to safety. Now let's shift the scene. Unso finally reunited with his master. First thing he did was report about Suho. He made it clear, Suho wasn't the kind of man who would abuse the power of evil spirits. But the master cut him off. That wasn't the priority right now. The master could feel it, an ominous surge of underworld energy rising near Mount Chanryong. That was a clear sign. The princess was in grave danger. He explained that if she died now, the consequences would be disastrous. So he gave Unso a direct order, go protect the princess. But there was one condition. He warned him not to use the power of the immortal being, no matter what. Back on the battlefield, things took a dark turn. Youngdan met his end at the hands of Yomura. But before you start thinking it was all for nothing, his sacrifice actually gave the princess and the others enough time to escape. Yomura wasn't just furious, he was in full-on madness mode, striking down anything that dared to move around him. And because of that rage, every horse they had was wiped out, so there was no way to ride after the princess. That's when Song Jaewong stepped up. She coated her limbs with icy energy and blasted forward, shouting to her allies to keep up as she tore across the battlefield toward the princess. Now let's check in on our boy Suho. He's with Seolyong heading back to her lab. Once inside, she handed him the Jumsa Yeohansian he needed and then asked him to grab the long box nearby. She wasn't just giving him one gift. Inside that long box was something huge, a powerful Dharma sword. Seolyong explained that since Suho was planning to track down her parents' enemy, she would help him too. This sword was an indestructible Dharma blade that could handle any technique without breaking. She even revealed she built it using blueprints left by an immortal being. Now this is the second time we've heard that name. Makes you wonder, could Unso's master actually be this immortal being? We'll get our answer later, but that little tease definitely raises the stakes. Outside, Suho wasted no time testing the sword. He unleashed the Void Splitter, and the blade didn't even flinch. It can take anything. Then he tried out the Jumsa Yeohansian, and for 3 full meters around him there wasn't a single sound. Perfect silence. Just then, Chonggong showed up and dropped a bombshell. He told Suho what happened to the princess, and that the same enemies Suho had fought before were now after her. Suho didn't even hesitate. He bolted straight toward her location. Meanwhile, the princess and her escorting soldiers were approaching Mount Qianryong. That's when Song Jaewong finally caught up and started firing icy arrows straight at the soldiers. Song Jaewong went wild, freezing enemies left and right like she was hosting her own winter apocalypse. The soldiers tried to rush her, but it was like trying to sprint across a frozen lake. You're not getting anywhere fast. She dashed straight toward the princess and let an icy arrow fly. One brave soldier actually managed to shatter it midair, but that arrow wasn't going down quietly. It exploded in a burst of ice and force that knocked the princess right off her horse. Without wasting a second, Song Jaewong began unleashing her trump card, the chills of hell. It looked even worse. As the possessor of ice-cold hell, she called forth massive cold spikes that erupted all around, instantly freezing soldiers in place. The princess tried to counter, summoning her blood spirit to shield everyone, but Song Jaewong wasn't done. She doubled down, hurling an ice soul straight at the princess. It slammed into her, the force so brutal it even froze the soldiers standing behind her. Just when things looked like a frozen nightmare, our boy Suho finally arrived. And yes, the princess was still breathing, but Song Jaewong wasn't planning to leave her that way. She moved in for the kill until Suho came through in the clutch. He unleashed the Void Splitter and landed a clean hit on her arm. Before she could even recover, he dashed in and drove the back of his sword into her abdomen, dropping her. With the threat neutralized for now, Suho helped the princess back to her feet. She immediately immediately called on the blood spirit again, healing her 2 maidens and the remaining soldiers. But don't start celebrating yet. The real danger just showed up. Yomura and his partner have arrived, and this fight is only getting started. Our boy didn't back down for a second. He straight up challenged them to come at him, and Yomura was the first to bite, charging in with that massive mace ball swinging like a wrecking ball on steroids. Suho held his ground and blocked with Taotai's power, but Yomura didn't let up. Strike after strike came crashing in, each one heavier than the last. Then Yomura decided playtime was over. He wrapped his mace balls in nameless flames. Suho barely dodged the first fiery swing, but Yomura moved faster than expected, instantly closing the gap and countering again. At this point, it was crystal clear. Yomura was stronger, no doubt about it. Suho knew he couldn't just trade blows, so he played it smart. He waited for the perfect opening to use the Jumsa Yienhansiona. When the next crushing attack came, he braced himself and barely managed to block it. Yomura wasn't stupid. He noticed Suho was planning something, so he ramped up the pressure. Each hit landed with bone-shaking force, and finally one clean shot cracked Suho right in the knee. Still, Suho gritted his teeth and held his ground. That's when Yomura started chanting some eerie, unknown words. The moment those strange syllables left his mouth, Suho snapped the Jumsa Yienhansiona into action. Instantly, the world within 3 meters went dead silent. Yomura's incantation? Completely useless. Seizing the moment, Suho unleashed the Void Splitter and nailed a perfect strike, clean through Yomura's midsection, leaving a gaping hole in his body. That sight was enough to send Yomura's friend into a frenzy. He opened the gate of Azura and in a flash transformed into a true nightmare, skin turning blood red, a third eye glaring from his forehead, and 6 arms. Even with all those extra limbs and a godly makeover, he still wasn't packing the raw power Yomura had, but his abilities were anything but normal. Then something even creepier happened. The Jumsa Yienhansiona's box suddenly snapped shut on its own, and a horrible, twisted sound filled the air. It wasn't just noise, it was the wailing of corrupted souls, seeping out of the hole in Yomura's body and swirling around like a dark, haunted storm. And just when we all thought Yomura was finally down for good, he's back on his feet, alive even though he's clearly unconscious. He locked onto the strongest source of chi on the battlefield, the princess, and started moving straight for her. Our boy Suho instantly panicked and tried to rush after him, but the 6-armed monster blocking his path wasn't about to give him a free pass. Yomura isn't heading toward her for fun. He's desperate to heal, and the princess is basically a walking fountain of chi. If he drains all of it, she's done for. Suho launched attack after attack, but the 6-armed opponent shut down every strike. Breaking through that kind of defense? Not happening. Yomura kept closing the distance. Jeek made a brave move to intercept, but Yomura tossed him aside like he weighed nothing. The princess fired off nocturnal blood in a last-ditch effort, but the second it touched Yomura, it vanished. He absorbed it since it was made of chi. Once he reached her, those terrifying tentacles shot out and wrapped around her, locking her in place while he started draining her chi. Seeing the princess wince in pain, Suho aimed a void splitter straight at Yomura, but Yomura just absorbed the attack like it was nothing. That's when Taotai's voice cut through the chaos, telling Suho to stay calm and focus. Suddenly, a blinding light ripped through the sky. Unso, in full eagle form, swooped in and immediately started tearing into Yomura's 6-armed friend, buying Suho precious seconds to reach the princess. Suho dashed in, but before he could even get close, Yomura's tentacles lashed out and clamped onto his arm, draining his chi too. At that moment, Taotai finally revealed his true form, his voice booming that he is greed itself and could devour the whole world. With a roar, Taotai began sucking the chi right out of Yomura. The princess's pain spiked, but Suho seized the opening and with one swift strike cut through the tentacles that were draining her life. Realizing the mess he and his crew were in, Yomura's 6-armed buddy summoned the mortal gate, and in a flash teleported himself, Yomura, and Song Jaewang out of there. With the danger gone, the maidens rushed the princess to the conduit. Time passed, and finally the princess opened her eyes, only to hear the bad news from her maiden. Her arm was cracked, and the massive loss of chi left her meridians badly damaged. She immediately understood how serious this was. Without her full chi flow, the elders might not even recognize her status. That's political trouble no one wants. She asked the maiden to bring the person who saved her. Of course, that's our boy Suho. When he walked in, he was all calm and noble, but come on, you could practically see the heart eyes. The princess gently reminded him that this is the 2nd time he's saved her life. Suho, trying to act cool, just said it was the natural thing to do, but she couldn't hide her sadness. The general was gone and so many palace guards had fallen protecting her. Suho stepped closer and promised her that he'd put an end to their enemies from now on. That's when the princess suddenly turned the conversation with a sly smile and asked if he intended to become her escort warrior. Our boy tried to play it off all humble. How dare I? But we all know he's been waiting for this exact moment since forever. The princess pointed out that he saved her twice and even managed to defeat the fearsome foe who took down the general. She made it official. Suho would be her escort warrior. Both of them blushed like a pair of teenagers. But before you get lost in the lovey lovey-dovey vibes. Let's check in on Jeek. He'd been eavesdropping on everything, and yeah, the jealousy was real. Watching Suho snag that roll lit a fire in him, and he started scheming. First move, he went to see his friend Chonggong and handed him a letter for his father. Turns out Jeek plans to use his father's influence to ruin Suho's chances as the princess's escort. Meanwhile, far away, Yomura and his crew were kneeling before their lord. Their master was furious they'd failed to kill the princess, and when he heard that Yomura, the one raised to be the strongest, was beaten by what he considered a mere palace guard, his rage spiked even higher. Yomura bowed even lower, begging for one more chance. The lord didn't shout. Instead, he tossed a book at Yomura's feet, the God-Demon Soul Sutra. The technique inside promised immortality to anyone who could master it. But there's a deadly twist. Almost everyone who tried ended up driven completely insane. Yomura didn't have the luxury of choice. Learn it or be killed by his own lord. That was the deal. Jeek's letter didn't take long to do damage. His father read it and went straight to Yebu Sangseo, the chancellor, the same snake who, in the future timeline, sent assassins after the princess. Sangseo opened the letter and caught a name that rang a bell, most likely our boy Suho's. Without wasting time, he headed to the emperor. The emperor was already fuming because the inspectors still couldn't uncover the identities of their hidden enemies. Sangseo played his part perfectly, bringing up the massacre on Mount Qianryong and the body of General Youngdan. He politely asked for the emperor's permission to go there and retrieve the fallen soldiers. But we all know this guy. He's scheming, and that trip is definitely part of his next move. Now back to the princess, who had recovered enough to move around though her meridians were still damaged, making it tough for her to gather chi like before. That's when she spotted Suho chatting with Seolyong. One of her maidens whispered that maybe Suho was talking to his girlfriend. The princess didn't say anything. Maybe she wasn't jealous, or maybe she was just really good at hiding it. She strolled over with a warm smile. Poor Seolyong froze the second she realized the princess was standing right there. It was her first time meeting royalty, and she barely managed to introduce herself, clearly starstruck. Suho jumped in to break the tension, proudly talking up Seolyong's talents. He explained she was a Dharma creator, and even showed off the indestructible sword she'd given him. He also made sure to mention that the Jumsa Yeohansian he used against Yomura? Yep, Seolyong built that too. The princess was stunned and honestly excited. Meeting a real Dharma creator was like meeting a legend. She didn't waste a second making it official. Seolyong would now use her power to serve the country. Just then Unso arrived with a message. The elders wanted to see the princess. She followed him and stood before their representative, who wasted no time getting to the point. They knew her meridians had been damaged and her chi flow weakened. Since she came to be recognized for walking the path of immortality, he needed to test her. She began circulating her chi, but the elder quickly saw the problem. Her meridians were unstable and her chi wasn't strong enough. The verdict was harsh. She wouldn't be recognized to walk the path of immortality. But before she could break down, the elders offered a single chance to fix it. She must travel north beyond Mount Qianryong to Mount Chonjong and seek out a wise man who lives at its peak. Only he could heal her body and restore her chi. By the way, that wise man is none other than Unso's mysterious lord. We're finally close to uncovering who this legendary figure really is. The elder added a warning. Time flows differently on Mount Chonjong. A single day there might pass as an hour in the world outside, or it could stretch into 10 days. She could be gone for months or even years without knowing it. The weight of it all left the princess lost in thought. She turned to Suho, looking for guidance. He told her she should go meet the wise man if she truly wanted to regain her chi and heal her body. Just then Sangseo arrived, and Suho's instincts instantly screamed trouble. He knew the true face of this man. Sangseo wasn't alone. He brought General Youngdan's eldest son, Wangbo Young. The princess couldn't bring herself to meet Wangbo's eyes. His father died protecting her, and it was only because of him that she was alive. And of course, the ever-scheming Sangseo clearly had another plan brewing. Hwang Bo-young. He's a candidate for vice minister of the palace guard, and even lined up as a possible husband for the princess. On paper, he's all about strong dharma and courage, but the man's reputation when it comes to women? Let's just say he's famous for showing his true colors when the topic turns lewd. Sangseo jumps in, dropping that Hwang Bo's been dreaming of becoming Her Highness' personal escort warrior. You catch what's happening, right? Sangseo is clearly trying to edge our boy out of his spot. Hwang Bo doesn't waste time either, claiming that the only reason our boy beat those strong opponents before was because General Youngdan had already worn them down. Total nonsense, and everyone knows it. Sangseo tosses out a proposal. Why not take both Hwang Bo and our boy along on the trip to Mount Chonjong, so the princess can test who's the real deal? At first she hesitates, knowing that road is dangerous, but then Unso shows up and backs the idea, saying she'll need both of them. And that's that. The princess is heading to Mount Chonjong with both guys plus Unso. Now the road isn't a simple stroll. It's rough, and the princess, being on it for the first time, can't relax. Hwang Bo tries to impress, telling her not to worry, because if she slips he'll catch her with his Dharma Jiamyungak. His Dharma, the right right side gives off a pushing force, the left side pulls, basically like having a personal gravity remote. Just as they're moving along, a stunningly beautiful woman suddenly appears right in front of the princess and calmly tells her to come with her. Huangbo reacts instantly, activating his dharma and firing off an energy ball that shoves the woman away, then yanks her right back toward him and bombards her with more energy blasts. But instead of retreating, she just gets furious, pointing out that they're the intruders and declaring herself the owner of this palace. Then she activates her own technique, harem no jutsu, and traps Huangbo in it. And you already know this guy's weakness. He falls for it without a fight. With Huangbo now completely under her spell, the woman doesn't waste time. She commands him to attack the princess, and Huangbo lunges at her like a predator. Suho jumped in to shield the princess, but Huang, still under the woman's spell, fired off a blazing energy ball. Suho blocked it clean, barely breaking his stride. The woman snapped her attention to Huang and ordered him to take Suho down, while she turned toward the princess, ready to twist her mind just like she did with Huang. That's when Unso shouted for the princess to guard her mind with chi. The moment the princess channeled her chi, the woman's trick fell flat. She couldn't control her the way she did with Huang. The princess wasted no time and called forth the blood spirit, which instantly locked the woman in place. With the woman immobilized, the princess commanded her to lift the spell on Huang. The woman had no choice. She released her witchcraft and Huang's eyes cleared. The second he came to his senses, Huang's rage flared and he charged at the woman, ready to tear her apart. But the princess quickly stopped him. She had a better idea. She wanted to use this woman as a guide through the treacherous mountain. The woman, now introducing herself as Wajong, explained that many strange people live in isolation up here and they'd need her help to move forward. So, the group pushed deeper into the mountain with Wajong leading the way. Their first challenge? Skinning fire mice, little blazing pests darting everywhere. Huang was eager to show off and handle them, but before he could even lift a finger, Suho stepped forward, unleashed the void splitter, and in a single clean strike, the mouse dropped. Even Wajong's eyes went wide. She couldn't believe he wiped it out with just one hit. Climbing higher, they reached their next trial, a raging force of wind powerful enough to stop them in their tracks. This was the territory of the wind-rising beast, the so-called ruler of the winds, a tiger that controlled the air itself. Blades were useless here, or so they thought. Suho, never one to hesitate, dashed forward and landed a crushing blow straight to the tiger's head. And he didn't stop there, hit after hit until the mighty beast collapsed in a heap. Wajong stood frozen, stunned again by how effortlessly Suho handled it. Finally, they arrived at a dark, eerie cave. Wajong warned them that a monster waited inside. Huang, ever cocky, stepped ahead with a smirk like it was nothing. That confidence lasted about 2 seconds, because out of the darkness slithered a colossal snake, its voice rumbling as it fixed its gaze on Huang. It hissed, asking him to repeat what he'd just said about killing it easily. This giant snake was Go, a descendant of the old immortals. Huang, puffed up with confidence, thought he could handle it solo. He blasted Go with his dharma, but the hit barely left a scratch. Go just soaked it up and lashed back. Huang tried again, this time firing a storm of energy balls, but still no effect. That's when our boy Suho stepped in. With one clean swing of the void splitter, he punched a hole right through Go's face, then followed up with a flurry of slashes that tore through the snake's massive body until it finally went down for good. With the threat gone, Unso suggested they find a spot to camp before the sun disappeared. Once they set up camp, someone had to stay awake for night watch. Huang volunteered to take the first shift. Later, while heading deeper into the woods to take a leak, he was lost in thought, frustrated that he hadn't managed to impress the princess yet. Out of nowhere, something slammed him from behind, and he dropped like a stone. The attackers? None other than Yomura's friends, Byeonseong and the other one. He crouched over the unconscious Huang, laid a hand on him, and used his shape-shifting ability. In an instant, Byeonseong took on Huang's exact appearance, and even his memories. And yup, this same guy is the one who killed Seolyang's parents. With Huang's real body dragged off to who knows where, Byeonseong stepped into camp looking exactly like him. Even Suho didn't notice a thing. Later that night, once Suho drifted back to sleep, Byeonseong slithered closer to the princess, ready to let his snake sink its fangs into her. But that's when chaos burst out from Suho's body, catching Byeonseong completely off guard. Chaos sensed immediately that something about this Huang was wrong, like she could see right through the disguise. For now, Chaos kept the princess safe. When morning came, Wajong led the group to a breathtaking forest of sakura trees, their pink petals glowing in the morning light. Suddenly, Wajong sprinted ahead calling for her sister, begging her to punish the intruders who had dragged her along. Before anyone could react, a bolt of lightning came crashing down, striking Wajong. Her sister stepped into view, a stunning nine-tailed fox. Even Unso was stunned. From here on, let's just call her Gumaho, because that's exactly what she is. Suho moved in to confront Gumaho, but she barely lifted a finger to stop him, and the pressure she unleashed pinned him in place. Seeing his chance, Byeonseong struck from behind, his snake sinking its fangs into Suho and injecting a vicious poison. Our boy tried to fight back, attack, but Byeonseong wasn't giving him a chance. He twisted Suho off balance and sent out 2 more snakes that sank their fangs deep, pumping even more poison into him. The princess, still thinking this was the real Hwang, froze in shock, until Byeonseong finally dropped the act and revealed he wasn't that fool at all. That's when Suho's eyes lit up. He instantly knew this was the very guy who murdered Seolyang's parents. Byeonseong wasted no time, unleashing a swarm of snakes toward the princess and the rest of the group. The princess called on her blood spirit, throwing up a crimson barrier, but Byeonseong wasn't done. He activated his ultimate move. He summoned a glowing moon right beneath their feet. In a blink, that phantom moon rose into the sky, and from it rained a storm of massive, deadly snakes. Suho tried to move, but the poison was wrecking him, every muscle screaming. Then Gumaho snapped. Watching her sacred forest get shredded by these snakes, she roared and charged in. One swipe, just one, and the snakes in her path exploded into nothing. Byeonseong tried to counter, but Gumaho unleashed a bolt of lightning so fierce it struck him square and locked his body like a statue. He barely had time to twitch before his ally popped open a portal to the human world and yanked him through, saving him from being fried alive. But Gumaho wasn't cooling off. Her fury turned straight toward our party. She raised her tails and unleashed another blast of lightning. Suho, instead of dodging, called on Tao Tai's power and absorbed the strike. The princess tried to rush in, but Suho stopped her and told her to inject him with the blood ring. You remember this move. When the blood spirit pumps his veins full, his speed and power shoot through the roof. Now supercharged and ignoring the poison, Suho gripped his sword, let the blood aura wrap around it, and then unleashed the wind bird technique in a burst of deadly crimson wind. Gumiho whipped her tails around to block the strike, but Suho wasn't done. He told the princess to give him another shot of that blood ring power, and the moment she did, his speed shot through the roof. Then he went full shadow mode, splitting into multiple clones. All at once, Suho and his doubles unleashed the void splitter, slashing straight at Gumiho. She wrapped her 9 tails tight around her body like a shield, but the triple strike was too much. 3 clean holes ripped right through her defense. Suho dashed in for the finishing blow, blade ready to end it, but Wajong jumped in front of him and begged him to stop, saying this was enough. Our boy lowered his sword, agreeing, on one condition: they leave first. And with that, the fight was finally over. The path to Mount Chanjong was clear, and the princess could finally begin her real trial. Unso explained that only the princess could enter the mountain. He claimed only the worthy may step inside, but we all know he's just following his master's secret orders. Suho told the princess he'd be fine and would track down Huang Bo in case more enemies were lurking. At last, the princess stood before the towering mountain. For a moment, she thought she'd have to climb every inch of that giant peak, but Unso pointed her toward what looked like an easier path. Through those gates, he said, the sage awaited. The moment she stepped inside, the world changed. A long, dreamlike road stretched out before her, clouds beneath her feet. Then a deep voice echoed in her mind. What is cultivation? The princess answered calmly, saying it's the principle humans must follow, the source of all things. The voice came again. And what is the pursuit of a life that practices cultivation? She replied, to let go of attachment to body and mind, to release the source of worries and reach true freedom through indifference and ignorance. The questions kept coming, and each time she answered without hesitation. Then she began to circulate her chi while walking, but the mountain's energy was intense, far stronger than anything she'd felt before. Her body trembled, her vision blurred, and she nearly collapsed. Just as she was about to faint, a figure appeared and steadied her. And just like we suspected all along, the sage who finally revealed himself was none other than Unso's master. Now back to our boy Suho, who finally tracked down Huang and dragged him out of danger. When Huang woke up and realized what happened, that an enemy had stolen his face and attacked the princess in his form, he was crushed with shame. He couldn't even think about facing the princess after that. He mumbled something about heading back and reporting everything to Sang Seo, clearly wanting to disappear before the embarrassment swallowed him whole. Meanwhile, inside Mount Chanjong, the sage watched the princess struggle to pull in the Zen Qi. Her job was to walk the entire path to the temple ahead while absorbing that overwhelming energy, and every step felt heavier than the last. The sage calmly told her that if she wanted to give up, she could simply quit right there. But the princess wasn't about to turn her back on the soldiers who had laid down their lives so she could reach this very spot. Her eyes burned with determination as she snapped back, making it clear she wasn't quitting no matter what. Still, the Zen Qi was too much for her body to handle. If she kept forcing it in, she'd collapse. So she made a bold move. Instead of absorbing it all, she began slowly exhaling the energy as she walked. The sage raised an eyebrow, slightly impressed at her quick thinking, though he knew she couldn't hold that tactic forever. Now let's swing back to to Suho. He'd already stepped through the gates himself, following the princess's trail, because he wasn't just going to sit back. He wanted to train here and grow even stronger. Unso appeared and pointed him toward a hidden spot perfect for training. He led Suho into a dark, strange cave where a huge gate loomed. Unso explained that beyond it lay a prison for captured gods and demons, the very place where he himself had once trained. Without a moment's hesitation, Suho stepped through. And here's something important. Everything so far is unfolding exactly as Unso's master, the sage, planned. The moment Suho crossed the threshold, the Shinigami inside him practically relaxed. This entire place pulsed with pure Een energy, the kind of darkness that feeds evil spirits. Before Suho could take it all in, a massive swarm of monstrous ants came charging straight at him. Our boy cut through the swarm of ants, slicing left and right without even catching his breath until only one opponent remained, a giant ant towering over the rest. He dashed forward and landed a clean strike, then cranked up his speed and kept hammering away until the massive bug finally dropped for good. Right after, Chaos revealed her true form, casually strolling around and helping Suho tidy up his backpack. But before they could even relax, a new enemy showed up. This time not an insect, but a humanoid monster radiating an insane amount of chi. Suho wasted no time and unleashed the Void Splitter, yet the creature blocked it with ease and fired back a gigantic beam of energy. Suho tried to absorb the blast using Tao Tai's power, but the energy was so overwhelming it couldn't be contained. That's when Chaos spotted something off and instantly activated her Not-Eye generation, forcing the monster to cut off that devastating attack. The monster was about to lunge again when Suho blurred forward with unbelievable speed. The creature fired multiple energy beams to stop him, but our boy was simply too fast, weaving through every blast until he closed the gap and went in for a strike. The monster still managed to block, but Suho didn't hesitate. He slid to the side and coolly declared this was the end. Meanwhile, the princess was making steady progress, moving with more control now. The sage, impressed with how quickly she'd adapted to the Zen energy, decided to push her further by setting up a new challenge. Out of nowhere, a massive red beam of energy came flying straight at her. She tried to block it, but the attacker, another monster, deflected her counter. This one wasn't just strong. It carried a sword and looked exactly like the monster Suho was facing. Before she could piece it all together, the monster suddenly burst forward and mirrored Suho's fighting style move for move. The princess recognized the pattern right away. These were the same strikes she had watched Suho perform. She braced herself and blocked a flurry of attacks, but then the monster shifted tactics, copying Suho's quick sidestep and spinning strike from moments ago. In an instant, the blade slipped past her guard and stabbed her. Just like I warned you, the sage set them both against monsters that perfectly copy their own fighting patterns, forcing Suho and the princess to literally fight against their own skills. The moment the princess got stabbed, the sage instantly made the monster vanish and caught her before she hit the ground. He quickly realized she hadn't absorbed any other spirits besides the blood crimson. With no other child in existence carrying her rare qualities, he couldn't just let her die. He began a powerful ritual, opening the gates of heaven and the gates of earth, flooding her body with pure, fresh, incredibly strong chi. As the ritual was underway, Unso arrived to report on Suho's progress inside the Demon Seal Cave. The sage calmly explained that now Suho's path no longer tied him to the princess. Whatever fate awaited him, whether death or the power he might gain, it was his journey alone. Back with our boy Suho, right after he took down the energy form of the princess, another monster emerged. This one was wrapped in chains and reeked of malice. Chaos quickly identified it as a demon ghost. The creature lashed out with its chains, forcing Suho to dodge fast, but then it unleashed a violent energy beam. This time, Suho absorbed the blast and countered right away, already planning his next move. He knew the key was to slice off its legs, but the demon ghost wasn't making it easy. Its many legs were freakishly flexible, striking from all directions. Even so, Suho stayed sharp, cutting them down until the demon lost its balance. Without wasting a second, he followed up with a crushing void splitter and ended it once and for all. But before he could breathe, a massive skeleton demon appeared, commanding two more ghost demons like a dark general. Suho clenched his grip on his sword. There was no turning back. The only way forward was to take them all down. Meanwhile, time flowed differently where the princess lay. Seasons came and went while she remained inside the ritual. The sage reshaped her bones into a flawless, powerful physique. He opened her upper, middle, and lower danjian and cleared every blood vessel, perfecting her body in every way. Now there was only one thing left, a spirit worthy of such a newly forged vessel. With that, the sage began the final and most important test. The princess was finally complete, standing there with the sage and Unso, but she couldn't sense or see anything because her consciousness was still far away. The sage ordered Unso to head back to the sealed demon cave to bring our boy Suho back. It's time for the princess to return to the capital. Unso rushed over, and what he found was crazy. Every single demon was already slaughtered. And then the real shocker, the king of demons was dead. Our boy actually pulled it off. Remember, for Unso, the king of demons, was the absolute limit. Yet Suho not only beat the king, he went on a killing spree, taking down several powerful demons after that. He even ventured all the way into the abyss itself. Unso kept calling out his name as he followed the trail, but when he finally caught up, Suho was in the middle of an insane fight with a beast. Oh, and check this out. Suho's hair had grown long because time flows differently down there. With a single mighty strike using the Void Splitter, Suho brought that abyss beast crashing down. And that's no small feat. It was literally the beast of the abyss, yet Suho just ended it. The aura around him had completely changed too. You could feel the difference. Unso quickly told him the princess had completed her ordeal on Mount Chongjong, and now Suho had to escort her back to the capital. Back with the princess, she finally regained consciousness. The sage spoke to her through telepathy, telling her he had healed her wounds and opened her chi, but he wasn't done with her yet. Now she had to return to the world and face the trials he'd prepared. The sage really feels like some next-level deity, but don't worry, we'll find out more about him later. When the princess stepped out of the gates, Suho was already there waiting. She greeted him, but her face was ice cold. Remember that energy monster that looked like Suho's shadow? It stabbed her, so now she's wondering if she can even trust him anymore. Before anyone could break the awkward tension, Unso told her that the personnel waiting for her at Qianryong Mountain had already gone back to the Imperial Palace because something urgent happened. They hurried to the capital, and that's when things got sketchy. Two guards stood at the entrance, and Suho immediately sensed something was wrong. When the guard told the princess to wait there, Suho lost his cool. How could a mere guard dare block the princess's path? But the guard calmly explained it was the court's orders. Then Han Sekyung showed up and went straight at Suho, demanding where he'd been all this time. She informed them that the princess's father, now called the previous emperor, had become a prisoner of a rebellion. Suho was completely thrown off. This was supposed to happen in the future, not this soon. And just when you think it couldn't get crazier, Han Sekyung revealed it's been a year and a half since the princess went to Mount Chongjong with Suho. Han Sekyung laid it all out, explaining what went down 3 months ago. When the barbarians from the frontier invaded, the emperor himself led a massive army to face them, but it turned into a complete disaster. They were ambushed, crushed, and the emperor was captured alive. After that, the enemy made ridiculous demands in exchange for his release. The court panicked and scrambled for a solution, and in a shocking move, instead of appointing the imperial princess, they crowned her uncle, His Majesty Zhong, as the new emperor. The moment the princess heard that, she immediately realized this was exactly the ordeal the sage warned her about. Now let's switch scenes to the emperor's palace. Word came in that the crown princess had returned, and all the officials were buzzing with resentment. They wanted the emperor to exile her for abandoning the country during its time of need. But her uncle, Emperor Zhong, shut that down. He reminded everyone it hadn't been long since his brother was captured as a prisoner of war. Then he dismissed everyone except the prime minister, who's none other than Sang Seo. As the two of them strolled together, Zhong casually asked for Sang Seo's opinion on the princess. And of course, Sang Seo, being the sly power player he is, wasted no time saying they need to get rid of her quickly. Zhong, still acting like a concerned uncle, quietly gave the order, deal with her fast. Just like in the future timeline, Sang Seo was about to unleash assassins to take her out. Lucky for her, our boy Suho has already lived through this timeline and knows what's coming. Back with the princess, she finally reunited with her maidens. And guess who's joined the crew now? Seolyang. The princess ordered one of them to request an audience with her uncle for the next morning. After that, she kept Suho and one maiden back to strategize their next move. The maiden revealed that Sang Seo is now the prime minister. The moment Suho heard that name, his eyes sharpened. He told the princess to get ready because trouble was coming. He explained that the one weighing down the current emperor, her uncle, was none other than her. Assassins would be sent to kill her. The princess snapped, insisting her uncle wasn't that type of person. But Suho, carrying the knowledge of the future, didn't budge. He calmly told her to judge for herself after the night passes. If nothing happens, he said, then feel free to punish me. The princess, still fuming, asked to be alone. Suho stepped out, and there was Seolyang waiting for him. Perfect timing. He wanted to ask her for a favor. Night fell, and just as Suho predicted, the assassins arrived. But before they could even make their move, Suho was already in position. He tossed a small ball into the air, one of Seolyang's clever creations, that exploded into a cloud of thick smoke. Without hesitation, Suho took down the first assassin, then dashed through the haze, cutting down the rest with ease. The princess watched all of it, and the truth hit her hard. There was no denying it now. Her uncle had given the order. From a distance, Song Jaewong fired an icy arrow straight at the princess, but this time she wasn't the fragile girl she used to be. She raised her hand, summoned a barrier, and stopped the arrow cold. The impact didn't even shake her. The princess ordered Suho to hunt down Song Jaewong, while she held Yonghwa Palace on her own. Suho shot forward like a lightning bolt, and behind him the princess stood firm, blocking every arrow that dared to come close. Song tried to slow him down with a flurry of shots, but it was like throwing pebbles at a storm. Not a single arrow could touch him. Desperate, she summoned huge ice spikes from the ground. But Suho calmly caught the attack with his left hand and absorbed the icy energy. Realizing her usual tricks wouldn't work, Song started running, firing arrows as she moved, but Suho wasn't having it. He unleashed the Void Splitter in one clean strike. Song tried to block it with an ice shield, but her defense shattered. The force of the attack tore through, injuring her arm. It was checkmate, but of course, Suho just had to play the noble hero and spared her instead of finishing her off. And that's when she smirked and dropped the real bomb. She was just the bait. Someone else was already going after the princess. Suho's heart sank and he turned to rush back, but Song revealed her trump card, Cold Ice Hell. In a flash, a massive prison of ice formed around both of them, sealing them inside and buying her allies the time they needed. While Suho was trapped, the princess suddenly heard a strange, chilling voice. A man emerged from the shadows and introduced himself as the city king of the infernal hell. The princess fired back confidently, saying the Golden Army would soon notice the chaos and come charging in. But the man just grinned and told her to wake up. If the Golden Army were coming, they would have arrived already. Her eyes widened. He was right. The palace was silent. No backup. Without another word, the man lunged forward, his spear slicing through the air. The princess met him head-on, using her newfound golden power to block. Then, without missing a beat, she combined that golden energy with the blood-crimson spirit, sending out a counterattack strong enough to make the air tremble. But the man was fast, dodging and striking again. He could tell her shield was too strong to break head-on, so he changed tactics. With a sudden feint, he hurled his spear, not at the princess, but straight at the maiden standing behind her. The strike was perfect. The spear pierced Huayan cleanly. The princess's heart dropped as she turned and saw her maiden fall, and panic finally broke through her calm. The princess rushed forward and caught Huayan in her arms, desperate to heal her with blood circulation. But the city king wasn't about to give her a chance. He hurled a razor-sharp water disc right at her while her guard was down. Before it could hit, the wounded Huayan shoved the princess aside, taking the hit herself. The disc sliced clean. Huayan was beheaded on the spot. The princess froze in shock, staring at the maiden who had been by her side all this time, now lifeless before her eyes. The city king threw his head back and laughed at the scene, then flung 2 more water discs straight at her. Meanwhile, Suho was still stuck in that ice prison with Song. Tao Tai had already started absorbing the ice, and finally Suho broke free. But Song still refused to give in. She launched another attack, determined to stall him for as long as possible. Suho had had enough. He countered and, with a single strike, finally beheaded her. If he had just done that from the start, he wouldn't have wasted so much time. Seriously, this guy never learns. Back at the palace, the princess completely lost herself. Her golden power burst out in a storm of rage. She blocked the city king's water discs with ease and charged, her fury shaking the air. He dodged her first strike, but she unleashed another wave of golden energy, this time controlling 2 massive golden forces at once. She tried to crush him between them. At first he resisted, straining to hold them off, but the golden power kept building until finally the pressure snapped his defenses. The princess squeezed with all her strength and crushed him to death. That's when Suho finally arrived. He rushed toward her, trying to pull her back to her senses, but she turned on him too, seeing only an enemy. Thankfully, Suho could absorb Dharma, so he began drawing her power away. Then one of the Shinigami inside him shouted for him to leap. Suho jumped and, to his shock, wings burst from his back. He was flying for the first time. This was the 4th Shinigami, Sien and Sal, who had once refused to lend his power. But because Suho had just killed Song, a loyal follower of Daein, Sien and Sal's wish had been fulfilled, and now Suho could wield his power. Suho quickly understood what he was dealing with. The princess was possessed by Shim Ma, the devil of the heart, the one who turns people into apostles. He dove down at blinding speed, slicing through her raging golden energy with the Void Splitter, and closed the distance. Then he unleashed Tao Tai's power to calm her. Slowly, the fury drained from her, and the princess slipped into what looked like a dream of the future. But we already know that vision wasn't just a dream. Just like what we saw now, Huayan was killed by the assassins, and the princess completely broke down. Our boy was right there beside her, blaming himself, saying it was all his fault for being late. But he made one thing crystal clear. No matter what happens, he's staying by her side. Then more assassins swarmed the palace, all aiming for the princess. And guess who turned into a human shield? Suho. He stood in front of her, taking every arrow straight into his own body. Later, when the chaos settled for a moment, the princess treated his wounds herself. You can see how she started leaning on him more and more. But the night only got bloodier. One by one, every single maiden who had served the princess was cut down by the assassins. When the princess finally decided to leave the palace, Suho agreed without hesitation. He'd go with her to to the very end. And you can tell she was starting to trust him completely, getting closer to him with every step. Now we know why Suho has been simping for her all this time. This bond was forged in fire. Later that night, as they tried to escape, Sang Seo appeared to block their way. Suho dashed straight at him, ready to end it. But Sang was already prepared, surrounded by assassins who formed a deadly shield around him. In an instant, a huge wave of assassins attacked, trying to finish Suho off. But our boy unleashed the wind spirit sword, blasting them all away. From there, you already know the tragic chain of events. The battles they fought until the moment the princess was killed by the Emperor Flame, and soon after, Suho himself was consumed by that same fire. Now back to the present. This is where it all comes together. The blood circle, that powerful Dharma item that lets the princess command the blood spirit, had carried those memories of the future. And now it revealed everything to her, showing her exactly what happened in that doomed timeline. When the princess finally woke up from that vision, she couldn't tell if it had been just a dream or if those memories were painfully real. The princess found out that Huayan had been buried quietly in the back garden and right away told Zhang Min to bring Suho to her. When Suho arrived, she shared everything about the dream, the glimpse of the future timeline she'd just seen. Every single thing that happened in that vision was now unfolding right in front of her. Confused and shaken, she asked Suho if he knew anything about it or if he'd had dreams like that too. Suho hesitated for a heartbeat, but then decided to tell her the truth. He admitted that what she saw wasn't just a dream, it was all real. Back then, he failed to protect her and both of them died. But on that very day, something strange happened. He suddenly found himself sent back to the past, as if time itself had pulled him back. The princess was left reeling, her thoughts spinning in every direction. She couldn't even think straight, so she asked to be alone for a while. Meanwhile, over on the other side of the palace, Sang Seo got word that every assassin he sent had been wiped out. He clenched his teeth and immediately started plotting his next move. The following day, the Golden Army marched into the palace fully armed. It was clear they'd betrayed the princess too. They were there to cut her and her maidens off from the outside world. But the princess wasn't about to be caught off guard. She already had a plan. First, she ordered Suho to cause a massive uproar that night when the next wave of assassins came. She told him to make it loud and drag the fight outside the palace walls if he could. Then she turned to Zhang Min and told her to stay close. That night, just as expected, Cho Gang appeared, a man who wielded the terrifying Dharma of fire, and he immediately started setting the palace ablaze. Right behind him came the Azura Dharma warrior and an old man, both ready for blood. The princess calmly ordered Zhang Min to be ready to deliver a letter. Then she led her into the royal library, where she revealed a hidden passage that opened to an exit near the north gate. She told Zhang Min that if the anti-protest turned into chaos, she must head straight to the house of the former military commander. At that moment, Suho arrived, wings unfurled, ready to fight. He shot into the sky and went straight for Cho Gang, opening with a fierce strike, the Void Splitter. Cho Gang somehow took Suho's first hit, but our boy wasn't done. He darted behind them to pull their focus, then let loose a massive slash right at Cho. Just when it looked like it might land, the old man stepped in, summoning an iron statue wall that soaked the blow. Without wasting a breath, he barked at Cho to find the princess. Cho didn't argue. He just stormed toward the library as the old man's iron tentacles shot out, wrapping Suho up tight. Next came these giant iron spikes that started closing in from both sides. While Suho was literally getting squeezed, Cho was inside, turning the place into a bonfire, flames tearing through the shelves as he searched. Seolyang tried to catch him off guard with a frozen arrow, but Cho snatched it midair. Meanwhile, the princess stayed seated among her maidens, calm as ever. She wasn't planning to run this time. Cho hurled his fire straight at them, but since the princess can literally see the flow of energy now, she just flicked her hand and his flames vanished. Yep, her new golden power is on a whole different level. Then she countered with her own strike, blasting Cho so hard she sent him flying outside. And just when you thought Suho might be done for, he ripped through those crushing iron walls and came back swinging, launching a counterattack so powerful it lit up the night sky. Zhang Min, racing toward the former military commander's house, saw the explosion of light and kept moving until two guards blocked her path. She played it cool, but one of them suddenly recognized her. Instead of raising an alarm, the guy smoothly told his friend she was his younger cousin. Zhang Min caught on quick and went along with it. Just like that, the guard convinced his buddy to let her through. And guess who that guard turned out to be? None other than Eun Kyung, Suho's best friend. He'd sensed something was off from the start since Suho was acting so cold toward him. Maybe this time, unlike in the future timeline, Eun Kyung won't betray our boy. Back at the fight, the princess's golden aura flared brighter, her voice steady as she declared she'd kill anyone who dared touch the people she cares about and that her uncle isn't fit to be emperor. Cho answered by gathering every bit of his dharma and unleashing the flames of hell straight at her. The princess locked her focus and turned Cho's flames right back at them, but that stubborn old man raised another iron wall, blocking it clean. That's when things got scary. Cho and his crew started summoning every nightmare you can think of, opening the gates of hell itself. himself. Iron Hell, Fear of Hell, Space of Hell. Each name sounded worse than the last. Up in the sky, those gates cracked open and massive great swords began to push through, ready to slice everything beneath into dust. Even the princess couldn't hold that back on her own. Our boy knew it too. He gripped his sword tight and told her to strike her energy into it. As the monstrous blades came crashing down, the golden energy from her touch surged through his sword and fired a colossal beam of light straight into the sky. The beam tore through the heavens and shattered every single great sword. The Azura man tried to bail with the old man, but Suho wasn't letting anyone walk away. He dashed forward in a blur and unleashed a slash so fierce it cut both the Azura dude and the Iron Master down in one go. He didn't stop there. He swung again toward Cho. Right before death claimed him, Cho spat out a warning. If the Daein steps in personally, no one will be safe. Even with the great swords gone, the palace was in chaos, walls collapsing. Only the Golden Army still stood. The princess faced them without flinching and declared she was going to meet her uncle, while Suho would clear the way. Wang, the commander of the Golden Army, stepped forward to block her. She stared him down and reminded him his father died protecting her. And now here he was, ready to kill the same woman his father gave his life for. Then she hit him with the truth. His father died because of Yomura. If Huang stood in her way now, it meant he was siding with the very enemies who killed his own father. That broke something in him. He finally lowered his weapon and said he wouldn't stop her, though he'd find out for himself if what she said was true. Meanwhile, that rat Jeek ran off to send this news straight to his father. Now over to the sage and Unso. The sage sensed a surge of power blazing from the Eastern Heavens capital, a good omen. He turned to Unso with a knowing look. The time had finally come. They were heading to the palace. Back inside, the emperor heard his niece was on her way and fumed that the Golden Army failed to stop her. Sang Seo calmly stepped up and asked the emperor to leave her to him. With a single command, Sang ordered his men to gather everyone in front of the royal palace, ready for the showdown. Sang Seo finally stepped onto the battlefield himself, cutting off the princess's path like he owned the place. He told her she couldn't meet the emperor because she was a threat to him. Yeah, like he didn't set it all up to look that way. Before she could even respond, a girl with two blades suddenly appeared, blocking her way. Suho moved up to clear the path. But this girl was fast, crazy fast. Her swords were whipping through the air, yet Suho noticed something. Her strikes had no real weight behind them. He tried to counter, but before he could land anything, she blurred backward, then shot forward like a shadow aiming straight for the princess's back. The princess reacted in a heartbeat, summoning her blood-crimson shield to block the strike. Suho's eyes narrowed. He bolted straight for Sang Seo, ready to end it, but Sang raised his hand and a wall of blue flames roared to life, stopping Suho in his tracks. The second Suho saw those flames, it clicked. Those blue flames, the very same from the nightmare future where both he and the princess were killed. The masked man from that timeline wasn't some stranger. It was Sang Seo all along. The princess saw the blue flames too and completely lost it. Rage took over as she demanded to know why the crown princess had to die. Sang's voice dropped cold. If she wanted answers, she'd have to make him yield first. With that, he ordered John Ryan to strike. Out of the princess's own shadow, John slipped like a phantom, lunging for the kill, but the princess threw up her shield in time. Meanwhile, Suho kept the dual-blade woman from getting anywhere near the fight. The princess retaliated, golden energy flaring as she launched her own attack. John pushed back with his own power, but her force was too much and sent him flying. She was about to follow up with a swift counter when a heavy mace ball came flying out of Nauher, smashing into her attack and cutting it short. And that's when the real villains showed themselves. Stepping out with dark grins were Yomura and Byeonseong. At this point, I'm sure you've pieced it together. The so-called Lord of Yomura and the mastermind of this underworld Dharma mess has been Sang Seo the entire time. Huang stepped forward, rage written all over his face, and demanded to know if Yomura was the one who killed his father. Yomura insulted Huang's father, calling the general worthless. That set Huang off. He unleashed everything he had with his Dharma, throwing attack after attack, but nothing affected Yomura. Then with a single, effortless strike, Yomura killed Huang. The other soldiers tried to step in, but Byeonseong, with his snakes slithering like death incarnate, cut them down one by one. Sang Seo then activated his hell domain, summoning a part of hell that trapped both Suho and the princess. The only way out? Kill Sang Seo. From above, Byeonseong unleashed his snakes again, but Suho raised the void splitter just in time, shielding the princess. Great swords began raining down from the sky, but the princess, using her golden power, destroyed them before they could land. Knowing they couldn't stay put, Suho and the princess started pushing forward, only to be blocked by Yomura himself. Suho charged and clashed with Yomura while John Ryan's sister attacked the princess from the side. The princess tried to fight back, but the woman dodged every strike and countered, landing a sharp blow that cut the princess. Suho saw it and didn't hesitate. He dashed in, taking the hit himself to protect her. Her enemy's blades got stuck in Suho's arm, giving him the perfect opening. He seized the moment and slashed, slicing John Ryan's sister's arm. Yomura lunged at the princess again, but Suho blocked him. Yomura quickly regained his balance balance and landed a crushing hit to Suho's midsection. Pain shot through him, but he refused to give in. Sprouting his wings, Suho took the fight to Yomura again, strike after strike, neither giving an inch. Both were on each other's throats. Then, channeling everything he had, Suho unleashed the Void Splitter and struck Yomura dead on. Even after taking a full hit from the Void Splitter, Yomura just stood there like nothing happened. And then it got worse. He awakened something called the God Demon Soul Sutra. Suho immediately went for another Void Splitter, but it fizzled out. That's when Chaos dropped the bomb. Yomura, he's become a Masion. The only way to hurt him now is to blast his insides with a critical strike. So the two went at it again, their clash shaking the entire Hell Domain. While they were locked in combat, Byeonseong slipped behind the princess and his snake sank its fangs into her, pumping her full of deadly poison. The princess instantly summoned the blood spirit to purge the venom. Suho spotted it and lunged, forcing Byeonseong to back off. But they were surrounded now, Yomura, Byeonseong, John Ryun and his sister all closing in. Yomura kept Suho busy while the rest charged at the princess. Thinking fast, she slammed her golden power into the ground, sending a shockwave that made everyone stumble back. Even then, John managed to slip behind her and slash her side. That split-second distraction cost Suho. Yomura's mace balls smashed into him, the impact rattling his bones. Still, Suho grabbed the princess and blocked John's follow-up strike. The princess quickly injected him with the blood spirit, flooding him with power. Instantly boosted, Suho pushed all of them back and even cut off Yomura's attempt to go for the princess. Then Suho stabbed Yomura's arm and Chaos yelled, "Now, blast it all at once!" Suho focused every ounce of energy into his sword and unleashed it, blowing Yomura's arm clean off. Yomura snarled and swung his other arm, but Suho dodged and sliced that one off too. For a moment it looked like checkmate. Yomura was literally armless. But then Byeonseong dashed in to help him. And in a twist no one saw coming, Yomura turned, sank his fangs into Byeonseong's neck, and then stabbed his own ally, draining every bit of his dharma. The next second, Yomura's arms started growing back, like nothing had happened. Yomura wasn't even close to being done. After killing Byeonseong and stealing his dharma, he went a step further. He started devouring the guy's body too. Chaos quickly explained what that meant. When a Masion devours both the dharma and the vessel, its power grows without limits. Suho dashed in and sliced Yomura's arm clean off again. But Yomura just leapt back and absorbed his own weapon, that massive mace, using it to instantly regenerate his arm. Our boy then went for the leg, thinking maybe that would slow him down. But nope. His leg grew back almost as fast as it was cut. Yomura unleashed a wave of blue flames, the same terrifying flames Sang used before. Then his attention shifted to John and his sister. John's sister bravely jumped in and started clashing with him, while John turned to Sang Seo and demanded he order Yomura to stop. Sang said he couldn't. Yomura was only doing what needed to be done. To become a complete Masion, he needed their dharma and their bodies. Before anyone could react, Yomura cut down John's sister and began absorbing her. Rage took over John. He unleashed his ultimate technique, a whirlwind of lightning-fast slashes that shredded Yomura into pieces. Logically, that should have ended it, but when one of Yomura's severed arms landed on John's head, it suddenly latched on and started regenerating. Yomura rebuilt himself right there while draining John's dharma and body too. Suho, shocked, asked Chaos what on earth was happening. Chaos explained that both Shinzeon and Masion are hollowed vessels. Yomura's human body was now completely stripped away. He had become a full Masion. And oh boy, his new form looked like something straight out of a final boss fight. Without a second's pause, Yomura raised his arm and blasted a burst of blue fire at Suho. Our boy tried to absorb it with his left hand, but Yomura wasn't about to wait around. He dashed forward, landing a crushing blow that sent Suho flying high into the air. Realizing this might be the end, Suho reached for his last trump card. He devoted every bit of his body and soul to the four evils sealed inside him. The moment he did, the four evils called out, pulling his consciousness into the mysterious four pillars that represented each of them. All four evils poured their power straight into Suho, and the princess was yelling at him to stop, but our boy didn't even flinch. He ignored her and kept going until every ounce of that dark strength was his. And when it was done, wow, Suho wasn't just stronger. He looked like a final boss himself, absolutely jacked with power. Without wasting a heartbeat, he shot toward Yomura at a speed you could barely follow. Yomura tried to roast him with those deadly blue flames, but Tao Tai had gone all in and Suho's power to absorb flames had skyrocketed. He sucked up that black fire and hurled it back at Yomura multiplied many times over. Then Suho wrapped his sword with Tao Wu's terrifying ability to slice through space itself. If he could cut both Yomura's body and the space around it in one strike, there'd be no way for Yomura to heal. Suho went in for the kill, but Yomura clamped down on the blade with his teeth, holding it like a beast and blasted a burst of blue flames that sent Suho flying. Even midair, our boy pulled in those flames and refused to quit. He charged again, attacking in a furious storm of slashes, but Yomura blocked every single one. Then Yomura countered hard and actually shattered Suho's sword, the one forged from indestructible indestructible material. Suho spread his wings to pull back, but Yomura was on him instantly, landing a brutal punch. Suho quickly called out to Chaos for the Scarlet Sword, gathered every bit of the four evils' power inside it, and delivered a perfect strike that tore straight through Yomura's body. Not stopping there, he followed up with a flurry of slashes that even ripped through space itself. Finally, it looked like Yomura was done, or so we thought. Yomura was still standing, even after Suho literally cut the space around him. Suho went to counter, but Yomura exploded in a massive burst of blue flames, and this time our boy couldn't dodge. He lost his arm in the blast. Yomura, now overflowing with energy, charged again. The princess, seeing Suho give up everything for her, decided she couldn't just stand by. She started channeling her own chi around him, urging him to merge her vessel's energy with his. Yomura unleashed another monstrous burst of blue fire, but Suho met it head-on with a colossal beam of energy carrying both his power and the princess's, the two forces colliding in a blinding clash. Both attacks smashed into each other with a thunderous clash, but just then Sang Seo's eyes narrowed. Something wasn't right. He rushed into check, and sure enough, Yomura's body was starting to break apart. That's when Yomura remembered what Sang had told him before. Even if Yomura had mastered the Shinma Soul Sutra, no human body could handle that kind of energy for long. But Yomura wasn't the type to just roll over. Even with his body falling apart, he refused to give in. If he was going down, he wanted to drag Suho with him. He suddenly stopped channeling his attack and charged straight at Suho, trying to disrupt our boy's own move. The moment Yomura got close, the princess stepped in and used the art of innate chi on Suho, awakening the sleeping chi inside him. And remember, Suho once carried the chi of the sun god himself. Now with the princess's technique, that ancient energy roared awake. Suho dropped his own attack and dashed forward to meet Yomura head-on. He slipped past the first two swings and slashed Yomura right across the face. Yomura, confident as ever, thought his wounds would heal instantly. But this time something was different. His regeneration lagged. That was all Suho needed. He raised his blade for the finishing blow, when suddenly blue flames erupted, blocking his strike. Sang had stepped in, mask now covering his face, and he ordered Yomura to come to him. And then the twist nobody saw coming. Sang himself struck and killed Yomura. In an instant, Yomura's body collapsed, leaving behind only a single glowing sphere of pure energy. Sang explained it was the Hanwonju, the origin of the universe itself, a perfect blend of godly and demonic power. With it, Sang could rise as the new god of Junction now that the old gods were gone. But before he could claim it, the Hanwonju suddenly flared with a surge of dark energy and pushed him back. At that exact moment, the sage appeared with Unso at his side, and the sage calmly declared that the Hanwonju was never meant to belong to Sang. Turns out the mastermind behind everything, the one who told Sang to create the Hanwonju, was none other than the sage himself. From the start, every single move was part of the sage's plan. He calmly explained that Junction could only be saved through the power of the Hanwonju. Sang, furious at being played, hurled his blue flames at the sage, but the old man barely moved. Just a flick of his hand, and he sent the flames right back at Sang. Then the sage dropped the Real bomb. The one destined to own the Hanwonju isn't Sang, it's the Princess Wulryong. And it doesn't stop there. The sage revealed that he was the one who gave Sang the underworld dharma and ordered him to kill the imperial princess, all just to push the princess to her absolute limit. The princess, outraged, shouted about the countless lives lost because of the underworld dharma. The sage simply raised his hand and showed them the present, an image of Junction itself. Right now, about 5 million humans live in Junhekian, a land that was once uninhabitable until the abundance of pure energy turned it into a resting place for Taoist hermits. But after the hermits left, that energy began to rot. In a few hundred years, the place will be unlivable. To keep Junction alive, a new god must rise to maintain it, even if it takes great sacrifice. Sang, desperate, still wanted to become that god. But the sage told him flat out that he couldn't because he isn't super mundane. That single word sent Sang over the edge. In a rage, he tried to destroy the Hanwonju itself. Suho dashed in to stop him, but Sang unleashed the flame of the god of fire, something even Suho couldn't block. The blue flames engulfed him, and Suho's body started to burn. Then, Sang's flames began to weaken. Seizing that tiny opening, our boy gathered every last drop of strength and drove his attack straight through Sang, punching a gaping hole through him and finally putting the old man down for good. The princess then turned to the sage, demanding he stop with the riddles and reveal who he truly is. And he did. He revealed that he's the last Taoist hermit alive, the saint himself. The moment that name was spoken, the four evils sealed inside Suho went wild. They recognized him as the very man who sealed them ages ago and started urging Suho to kill him right there. But the saint calmly used his power, Bongyo, tightening the seal and silencing the four evils in an instant. Then came another twist. The saint revealed that it was Unso who handed Suho the supreme god's mind method. Remember that book Unso gave him, the one that promised he could make the four evils submit if he mastered it? Turns out it was all a setup, a clever trick so the saint could control the evils easily when the time came. The saint told Suho to stay quiet and promised promised he'd deal with his problem later. The princess then asked the question we were all thinking. Why doesn't the saint just become the god of junction himself? His answer, because he wants to ascend to heaven, and that's something the decree of heaven forbids if he ties himself to the lower realm. Basically, the heavens have abandoned humankind. It's not humanity's fault, he explained. It's just that becoming a god is no longer possible in the human world. There's no need to keep junction alive with a spirit vessel anymore. The gods left long ago, and though they felt regret, there's no one left to watch over this world except him. But becoming a god here would mean being trapped forever, something no Taoist hermit ever wanted. The princess was furious, calling out the gods for creating life only to abandon it, leaving no one responsible. That's when the saint revealed his plan. He wants the princess herself to become the god of junction to atone for the god's sins. And then came one last revelation. She is his descendant. The founder of the Eastern Heavenly Kingdom was his own son, making her part of his bloodline. As if that wasn't enough, Unso dropped his disguise and revealed his true appearance. He had been working with the saint all along. He apologized for deceiving her, and even the saint admitted he was sorry for the trials he put her through. Finally, the saint looked the princess in the eye and asked the question everything has been leading up to. Will she accept and become the god of junction? The princess still had one burning question, and she didn't hold back. She asked, if she refuses to become a god, will he turn back time? The saint froze, clearly shocked she figured that out. How did she know? Well, when she learned that Suho had once regressed, back when he was just an ordinary human, she started wondering how that even happened. Then it clicked for her. If someone could pull that off, it had to be the saint, bringing Suho back to the past with his power. And she was right. The saint admitted it. But here's the crazy part. He said this time Suho was a variable, meaning our boy didn't even return on purpose. He came back as an unexpected glitch in the plan. The saint revealed something even wilder. There have been countless regressions to create a god, just like the empress hinted. Let me break that down. Every time the princess failed to become a god, the saint reset everything, throwing her and Suho back in time to start over. Over and over, a loop with no end. But this time something changed. Each cycle, Suho's will grew stronger, and that's why he managed to hold on to his memories this time around. The princess then asked the big question, what happens to Suho if she refuses to become a god? The saint calmly explained that now that the wish had been fulfilled, if she rejects it there won't be any memory of all this in the next life. The princess would simply live on as an imperial princess, and Suho would just be banned Suho again. In other words, if time resets now, everything they've shared, every moment, every memory would vanish. Suho wouldn't even remember her. Hearing that, our boy didn't waste a second. He leapt forward, snatched the blood ring from the princess, and told her to choose whatever she wanted, god or empress, because no matter what, he'd protect her. Think about that for a second. The saint is basically cornering the princess. If she refuses, the world goes back and she and Suho forget each other. If she accepts, she becomes a god but sacrifices her humanity. The saint raised his power, ready to crush Suho, but before he could act, the princess made her decision. She grabbed the blood ring back and declared loud and clear that she would become the god of junction and lead its people. And that's when the real trial began. To accept the Han Wonju inside her, she had to withstand the chaos of gods and demons mixing inside her soul. Her body began to break apart, disintegrating as it transformed into that of a true heavenly being. At that exact moment, the Hell's Cape Sang created crumbled, and everyone was pulled back to the capital. But it wasn't over yet. The Golden Army immediately closed in on the princess, trying to capture her. Suho stepped forward, ready to protect her without a second thought. Just then the princess's grandfather appeared, flanked by Zhang Min, Seolyang, Han Sekyung, and yes, even Un Kyung, who this time didn't betray our boy. The saint turned to them and announced that they should bow before the newly born god of junction. And let me tell you, the princess's new form? Absolutely breathtaking, radiant, divine, and every bit the god she was destined to be. Her uncle still couldn't believe what he just heard. The princess is now a god. To leave no room for doubt, she released her divine aura, and instantly the entire battlefield went silent. Every sword dropped, every fighter froze. She looked around and asked in a firm, almost heartbreaking voice, "Is this how you think a sword should be wielded?" The humans, realizing the weight of their actions, all bowed their heads and begged for forgiveness. Her uncle trembled in front of her, trying to excuse himself by blaming the country. But come on, we all know greed had already eaten away at his heart. The princess didn't let the moment drag on. She turned to her grandfather and ordered him to negotiate the emperor's release and to work with the shamans to fulfill the prophecy while getting rid of every traitor. And just like that, every last schemer was captured and lined up to face the punishment they deserved. The saint then called our boy over. As soon as Suho stepped closer, the saint unsealed the four evils, setting them free. They immediately lunged at the saint. Bold move, but the saint didn't even flinch. With a flicker of power, he froze them mid-attack and was ready to erase them completely. Before he could finish them off, the princess stepped in and pleaded for mercy, reminding him that despite their sins, the four evils had played a big role in all of this. The saint gave them a choice. Will you perish here or follow me to heaven? They looked at each other and knew there was no real choice. They chose heaven. Our boy Suho watched as his companions, yes, even those 4 chaotic ones, thanked him for everything and wished him luck before following the saint. The princess turned to Suho next. Now that she had become a god, her home would be Mount Chanjong. She smiled and said she looked forward to seeing him again, then followed the saint through the gates of heaven, disappearing with the 4 evils. It felt like the end. Her grandfather offered to take Suho back to the palace, but Suho had other plans. He wasn't chasing glory or power anymore. He wanted to walk the path of a hermit. So he left to train alone, promising that no matter how long it took, he would master that life. Centuries flew by. Suho's hair turned white, his body tempered by time, his spirit so strong he could now live for decades without aging. Finally, he stepped through the gates of Mount Chanjong. There, waiting for him, was Gumaho, the legendary 9-tailed fox. She immediately sensed who he was. Through telepathy, she was told to let him pass. Suho climbed higher, toward the realm where the heavenly god resides. And there she was, the princess. She softly asked his name. Suho knelt down and said, "I belong to the palace guards. My name is Ban Suho." Tears welled in her eyes as she realized who stood before her. She had waited hundreds of years, alone, unwavering, just for this moment. It was as if time itself bowed to their reunion. It's hard not to admit, that was a beautiful meeting. The princess, both crying and smiling, asked Suho to stay by her side forever. And just like that, their story reached its gentle, perfect close. A long, winding journey filled with betrayal, battles, and gods finally gave us something rare, a truly happy ending.